Chapter 576. The TV screen just happened to switch to Wang Debao's face, who was killing a huge rat. With a swoosh, blood splattered everywhere. The camera was blurred, and he couldn't help but feel disgusted. A hand wiped the lens, and Wang Debao grinned. "Welcome to the Righteous Alliance. We are a team that protects the safety of the world. We will go wherever there is danger." Bang! Before he could finish, he was snatched away by an eagle. "Wife, save me." However, it was not just the Righteous Alliance. Many other people took this opportunity to recruit experts and maintain law and order. After all, they were all intelligent people. How could they give up on such a good opportunity? Qing Huaxian, who was originally frustrated, suddenly cried out in surprise, "Seems like our company is going to change its line of work." Yi Hua carried his son and went upstairs to change his clothes. "I feel that it is better for Voidless Realm to not get involved in this kind of matter. Even if Voidless Realm were to get involved in this matter, it wouldn't be of much use to them. This is a large-scale disaster, and it isn't something that a few thousand people from Voidless Realm would be able to solve." After putting on the diapers for his son and helping his son to put on his clothes, Yi Hua, the nanny father, finally let out a breath of relief. After that, Yi Hua began changing his clothes. Yi Yan sat on the bed and looked at his father with his big eyes. He didn't seem so fierce. It seemed like he wasn't a gift from someone who topped up his phone. After tying his son to his chest, Yi Hua prepared to go to Voidless Realm to take a look and give them some practical suggestions. In the desert outside of Voidless Realm, there was a huge poisonous scorpion that was crawling slowly, and there was also a huge cobra that was crawling on the ground. Inside Voidless Realm, Donghuang Baiji was currently discussing with Qingya about countermeasures. Qing Yutong's playful expression changed, and she gave the most sincere suggestion. At this moment, Yi Hua also appeared at the side. When the three women saw the way Yi Hua was dressed, the corners of their mouths twitched. Wasn't he a super nanny? When Qingya saw that her son stopped crying after being together with Yi Hua, she felt much more at ease. "You all don't need to discuss anymore. A lot of cultivators have already stood out to resist, and it won't be long before the crisis is resolved," Yi Hua said faintly. The little guy, Yi Yan, sucked on his finger and watched curiously without making a fuss. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, "Even if the crisis within the city is resolved, what are we going to do about the crisis outside? For example, the animals within the desert have all evolved into spiritual beings." Yi Hua revealed an expression that said, "You are all idiots. This is the law of nature. Do you intend to eliminate all dangers? Just you three women and the several thousand people from Voidless Realm? Dream on." Yi Hua ruthlessly struck down on her. "I don't know what this woman is thinking about." Yi Hua's words dealt a huge blow to the three women. After pausing for a moment, Yi Hua said again, "The revival of spiritual energy this time is a test for people. It also shows that we have entered a new era, and people have to adapt to the new era. It is the same for you guys. You guys are really stupid." Yi Yan, who was in his arms, nodded. There was nothing wrong with his father's words. When Qingya saw that her son was actually able to nod his head, she immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. "I have only taught my son to Yi Hua for around 10 minutes, and my son is already being led astray. What are you doing? I will be taking care of the child for the next few days and nurture our relationship." Yi Hua refused to give the child to Qingya. This caused Qingya to become anxious, as if her husband was going to snatch the child away from her. "Yi Hua, I still need someone to feed me milk." Qingya was fighting over Yi Hua, and Donghuang Baiji and Qing Yutong were shaking their heads. "I can feed them too," Yi Hua said gravely. "Wow, brother-in-law, you still have this kind of ability." Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. Qingya, who was standing at the side, bit onto her lips and had a look of, "If you don't give me my son, I will cry," on her face. "You all continue with the meeting, I will bring my son out to play." After finished speaking, Yi Hua left. Qingya stomped her feet in anger. Dong Huang Baiji laughed lightly. Qingya, don't be angry, do you think that Yi Hua will be able to steal your son away? That's right, brother-in-law even knows how to feed. I am really curious how brother-in-law feeds his son. Qing Yutong began filling in the blanks in her mind. Let us continue to discuss about our future plans. Dong Huang Baiji retracted her smile and said solemnly. Qing Ye and Qing Yutong also became serious. We cannot be careless with this matter. Meanwhile, Yi Hua also gathered all of his subordinates at Leisure Bar and began the first meeting of the new year. The location of the meeting had already changed from Leisure Bar's toilet to Leisure Bar's main hall. This caused Wei Chang and Lai Gu to let out a sigh of relief. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Little honor. Everyone bowed down respectfully and shouted out loudly. Yi Yan, who was in Yi Hua's embrace, blinked his big eyes. Looking at his father's subordinates, Yi Yan's heart was filled with curiosity. Everyone, get up. Yi Hua said faintly. Thank you, your honor. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette, paused for a moment, then took it back. My son is still here, smoking doesn't seem to be too good. Sitting on the high chair, Yi Hua said faintly, you all should know about today's matter, right? All of Yi Hua's subordinates nodded their heads. Yesterday night, I felt that his honor definitely has a new plan. In the new year, there must be a new atmosphere. I, the Supreme Overlord, have given out spiritual energy as a red packet for the world. Your honor's great fortune, this will be a good fortune for mankind. All of Yi Hua's subordinates shouted out in unison once again, seemingly as if they had already thought of their lines beforehand. Yi Hua nodded his head, and Yi Yan, who was in Yi Hua's embrace, nodded his head as well, just that, Yi Hua didn't see it. Tell me, what is your goal for this year? It's over. His honor is going to start the test. Lai Gu and Yi Zizi immediately shut up. If I don't participate in this kind of test, I will be scolded if I don't speak well. Seeing that all of Yi Hua's subordinates were not speaking, Yi Hua had no choice but to call out names. Yi Zizi, tell me what I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to do in the future. Ah, Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. What are you doing, your honor? You know that I am very lazy, I am not suitable to answer questions. What ah? Tell me. Yi Hua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi puffed out her cheeks and said gloomily, his honor wants to unify the world. Everyone, isn't it just a matter of time for his honor to unify the world? As expected, I shouldn't have asked Yi Zizi. Looking at his honor's disappointed gaze, Yi Zizi lowered her head in grievance. It's not like I'm good at answering questions. Wei Chang, tell me what you think. Yi Hua said faintly. I feel that after the new year, all of my subordinates are stupefied. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then took a step forward and said respectfully, his honor wants to use the same old trick again. Am I, the Supreme Overlord, such a senseless person? Would I use the same trick again after using it once? Yi Hua's brows wrinkled, he was very dissatisfied. All of Yi Hua's subordinates sensed his honor's dissatisfaction and began to become nervous. Zhu Tian felt that it was time for him to tell his honor. However, Brett hastened his pace as he bowed down and said, his honor's goal should be Justice Alliance. Brett is smarter than all of you, at the very least, he is able to point out the root of the problem. Yi Hua said gravely. All of Yi Hua's subordinates lowered their heads and remained silent as they listened to his honor's lecture. I didn't expect that the first meeting of the new year would be like this. Chapter 577. Yi Hua continued, last year, the number of people in the cultivation world decreased greatly, and this time around, I wanted to replenish some fresh blood. Just that, I didn't expect that when I was replenishing some fresh blood, such a situation would still occur. However, right now, the situation is under control. What is worthy for me to be happy about is that there are people who are planning to use this opportunity to form their own faction. Justice and Order Alliance can be counted as the earliest to form their own faction, and right now, there are even more factions that are forming their own faction. All of these factions do not place Voidless Realm and Ing family in their eyes anymore. Speaking up to here, Yi Hua paused for a moment, then looked towards his subordinates. Yi Zizi raised her hand and answered, His Honor wants us to kill those people. Yi Hua slapped the air in annoyance. Yi Zizi held onto her head and felt extremely wronged. I want to see how they fight, Wei Chang. Ask the Ying family to distribute the ancient godly items. Remember, every ancient godly item is divided into 3 fragments and slowly guide them. Understand? Yes. Wei Chang respectfully accepted the order. Brett, there's no need to keep an eye on the Righteous Alliance. If I know everything, it'll be boring. Yes. Brett lowered his head and accepted the order. Yi Hua stood up and emphasized once again, remember, we are law-abiding citizens, and we will never kill people. The subordinate's lips curled up into a sinister smile. Your Honor, subordinates will remember. The subordinates shouted out in unison. Brett, stay here. Everyone else, disperse. Yes. Before leaving, Zhu Tian took a look at His Honor. Could it be that His Honor is planning to persuade Brett again? His Honor is simply too good to me, and I can only repay His Honor's kindness by sacrificing my life. Sit. Yi Hua said faintly. This subordinate doesn't dare. Brett's expression didn't change in the slightest as he replied respectfully. Yi Hua didn't insist and said lightly, What do you intend to do next? We await your next command. Brett said in a low voice. What are you going to do while you wait? Brett said nothing. Actually, you should find someone to accompany you. Look at them, they already have their other half. After hearing what Zhu Tian said, Brett's expression finally changed, and he said gravely, Your Honor, I will never forgive Zhu Tian. When did I say that I would let you and Zhu Tian fight? Yi Hua laughed lightly. Brett slightly raised his head, Your Honor. I have found a husband for you. In a few days, you should meet him first and then get married. Brett was shocked by His Honor's words, and he hurriedly said, Your Honor, isn't this a little too hasty? Hasty? Or are you going to disobey my orders? Yi Hua's expression sunk, and he emitted out ice-cold killing intent. Brett hurriedly knelt on the ground with a terrified expression. This subordinate deserves to die. All right, you can go now. I'll inform you to go on a blind date. Remember. I'm not asking for your permission. Subordinate will listen to Your Honor's arrangements. Brett felt that His Honor didn't seem to be joking, thus, he could only agree to it. Yi Hua waved his hand, and Brett bowed and retreated a few steps. After that, Brett disappeared from the hall. Pinching onto his son's cheeks, Yi Hua let out a breath. Every time I see Brett sitting at the side by himself and separated from the group, I will feel unhappy. This time, he also planned to suppress Brett, but where should he go to find the male lead? What a problem. Yi Yen suddenly shouted. Yi Hua carried on to his son, and the father and son pair looked at each other deeply. After a while, Yi Hua asked, Hungry? The little fellow nodded his head. Yi Hua had no choice but to send the little fellow to Voidless Realm first. Just now, I wanted to feed my son spicy gluten, but unfortunately, I don't have any teeth. Seems like I have to learn how to make milk. 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye, and Yi Yen was now 1 month old. The little fellow was a bit mischievous now, and he had already learned how to walk when he was around 10 days old. Big sister Dong Huangli had been playing with little brother in Voidless Realm every day, causing a lot of chaos. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were having a headache. In the beginning, everyone only felt that the 2 little princes were mischievous, but after a while, the 2 princes weren't just mischievous at all, they were simply the kings of destruction. Right now, the 2 siblings were currently standing in front of their mother with their heads lowered. The 2 siblings' faces were dirty, and it was clear that they had just done something bad. There were even chicken feathers on Yi Yan's head. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji looked at their children with a stern expression. Yi Hua sat at the side and drank his tea leisurely. The 2 siblings would send a distress signal to him from time to time. Daddy, save me. In the past, Yi Yan would often shout for mommy to save me, but right now, it had completely changed. Mommy is the real culprit, and daddy is the warmest. Ah Li. What's going on with you, bringing your little brother to cause trouble? Dong Huang Baiji started lecturing. Dong Huang Li lowered her head and looked at her toes. Qingya reprimanded, Yan, how did mommy teach you? You are already 1 month old, yet you are still so immature. Yi Hua almost sprayed out the tea that he was drinking. Isn't the demand a bit too high? How can a child be mature after 1 month old? Yi Yan muttered in a low voice. You still dare to talk back to me? Qingya, who had a bad temper, immediately took out a feather duster. Seeing that his mother was going to fly into a rage, Yi Yan immediately pounced into his father's embrace. Daddy, mommy is going to hit me again. Yi Hua placed down the teacup and said faintly, Qingya, your demand is too high. Yan, is still so young. Yi Yan nodded his head. Mommy's demand is too high. She actually wants me to memorize poems, write poems, and other random things right now. I am only 1 month old. Other people's children are still sleeping in the cradle when they are 1 month old. Qingya snorted coldly, Yi Hua. Don't protect Yan. See if I don't beat him to death today. Dong Huangli couldn't help but laugh secretly, and her mother just happened to see her laughing. Ah Li. You are still laughing. Dong Huang Baiji could be seen taking out a feather duster. Dong Huangli imitated her little brother and pounced into her father's embrace. Daddy, mommy is going to use domestic violence. You too, enough. How can there be mothers like you two, hitting children for no reason? Yi Hua's expression turned cold. Even I can't bear to hit the two of them. Qingya snorted, then shook the feather duster. Tonight, Yi Hua let out a cold laugh. To actually use this kind of thing to threaten me, do you two think that I will compromise? Ah Li, Yan, will the two of you listen to daddy's words? Yi Hua asked seriously, as if he was going to bring the two little fellows away from home. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan nodded their heads vigorously. All right then, listen to daddy's words and just hit mommy a few times. Dong Huangli, Yi Yan, while holding onto the feather duster, Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji walked over with a strange smile on their faces, scaring the two little fellows to the point that they started trembling. Little brother runs fast. Dong Huangli pulled onto her little brother and ran out. Chapter 578. You too, don't be so strict. Children at this age should naturally play around. Yi Hua persuaded carefully. In the past, you two even said that you two are the same. Qingya laughed, you can't be like this, children need to be educated from a young age. Look at Yan, he has been making noise everywhere, and Ali has been led astray by Yan, Dong Huangli doted on her little brother quite a bit, and sometimes, she even helped her little brother to take the blame. It's really good to have this kind of elder sister. It's normal for a boy to be a bit naughty. Yi Hua sighed lightly. If Yan, was like a girl and didn't make noise, Yi Hua wouldn't like it. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head, what Yi Hua said is right, don't be too strict. You too. Qingya snorted, then sat down and drank her tea. Let's talk about proper business. Recently, that Justice Alliance has been in the limelight. Dong Huang Baiji sat beside Yi Hua and poured herself a cup of tea. Dong Huang Baiji was a bit irritated. This Justice Alliance had recruited quite a lot of people in this 1 month, and they had even obtained the Good Citizen Award. They had been killing spirit creatures everywhere, restoring order to all the big cities. The problem was, a lot of families had withdrawn from the management of the big powers, some joined the Justice Alliance, and some even established their own families. In short, they did not want to be managed by the big powers anymore. However, Voidless Realm and Ing family both remained silent, giving people a kind of misconception, as if they were tacitly agreeing to this situation, causing even more families to withdraw from the big powers. Other than Justice Alliance, another organization called Peace Association emerged, and they could be counted as the two most snobbish and powerful organizations right now. They didn't differentiate between North and South, and they would go wherever there was trouble. Voidless Realm and Ing family seemed to have faded out of people's sight. In the past, people didn't even mention these two big powers, and right now, newcomers didn't even know that these two big powers existed. Furthermore, in this short 1 month, more and more regulations were introduced one after another. It couldn't be helped, they had to adapt to the new environment. For young people, such a world was too exciting. It was just like a fantasy world in a novel. They could practice powerful martial arts and fly in the sky. They could destroy the world with a wave of their hands and feet. They could be a peerless hero or a devil incarnate. Some businessmen were also looking for business opportunities. They opened various academies and hired experts from the cultivation world to be teachers. The whole world was slowly moving towards a new height, and the benefits still outweighed the disadvantages. The corresponding ranking system would also be introduced in a month's time. The entire world would be unified to prevent chaos. The stars, moons, and suns were used to determine the levels of strength. The 5 stars were upgraded to the moon and the 5 moons were upgraded to the sun. It was simple and easy to understand. However, one shouldn't underestimate this power level. This was the result that all the experts came up with. Right now, there weren't any Sun-class elites in the world, and there were very few Sun-class elites in March or April. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were only 2 moons and 4 stars. Feng Tian was a 4 moons expert and could be considered an influential figure. Qing Tian had also been tested and was also a 4 moons expert. However, Feng Tian and the others did not believe that Qing Tian was deliberately suppressing his strength. With 4 moons imprinted on his chest, he would be respected when he walked out. Now, people would look at his chest first and not at his money. Because, no matter how much money one had, one would still have to kneel down and lick a powerful cultivator. Furthermore, people nowadays like to form parties to fight monsters. After all, the bodies of those animals were all treasures that could be made into spiritual artifacts. There were even some people who found some caves that were guarded by powerful demons. It felt like they were fighting a dungeon, just that, there was only one chance to fight a dungeon like this, and if one was slightly careless, one would lose their life. Those who didn't have a bit of strength could only watch from the sidelines, not daring to move. Meanwhile, the desert outside of Voidless Realm was already classified as a forbidden area. There were too many ferocious beasts in that place, and if one were to come here, one would basically die. Furthermore, the sea was rather dangerous as well. Without a few powerful figures guarding the sea, no one would dare to go out to sea. I really don't know what you two are worried about. What does the strength of the Justice and Order Alliance have to do with us? You two just have to do your own part. Why are you two still caring about other people's opinion? Yihua couldn't understand the 2 women. After all, Donghuang Baiji had been an empress for so long, and right now, she was worried about personal gains and losses. In the past, she controlled the entire north, but now? Since other people don't even give a damn about them, how could they possibly feel comfortable? Furthermore, other powers were gradually becoming bigger and bigger, and they had obtained everyone's acknowledgement, causing Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji to feel sullen. In other words, he was unhappy and displeased. Hearing Yihua's words, Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji became like a deflated balloon and became dispirited. You two, in the past, you two didn't fight for anything, and now that someone else is fighting for something, you two are acting like this. Hee, women. Yihua teased his 2 wives to his heart's content, expressing that he was feeling very good. Donghuang Baiji refuted, it's all because you didn't allow it. What are you 2 women trying to do? Don't you know how to keep a low profile? Why don't you learn from me? As a mother, shouting about killing every day, what a scandal. This is the jealousy that comes from a woman. Even Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji have this kind of bad habit. The 2 wives pouted and remained silent. Luckily, the little fellows weren't present, if not, their image would definitely be ruined if they saw their mother acting like this. Rest assured, Voidless Realm will forever be a big power, this is something that no one can change. They are just consoling themselves. Yi Hua said faintly, then walked out of the room. He wanted to let the two women calm down. Because there was going to be a big show today, and Yi Hua was going to join in the fun. Other than Zhu Tian, everyone knew about this. And that was Brett's blind date. It was today. Blind date. Gold Raider Colonel Dou Fusher. Wei Chang was truly unable to find a reliable person, and he only heard from Death Mage that there was such a person who was rather reliable. Actually, the Blood Demon had wanted to put on a show at the start and act as the matchmaker. What if the show turned out to be real? Brett was so beautiful, so sexy, so compatible with the Blood Demon. They were a perfect match. At the start, Yi Hua only had this choice, but the sudden appearance of Dou Fusher made Yi Hua change his view. After all, Dou Fusher was an outsider, and this was much better. Dou Fusher was also very surprised. Ever since he separated from his big brother and sister-in-law, Dou Fusher started doing his old profession of catching ghosts. As for digging up tombs, forget about it, those tombs are all for scamming children. Suddenly, Big Brother looked for me and said that I have a very important mission, and after I complete it, I can join the group. There's a power outage today. There's a power outage today. This is so depressing. Chapter 579. Hearing such news, Dou Fusher became very excited. He had wanted to join the group long ago, but he didn't have any contribution points. Now, the opportunity is right in front of me. As long as I complete the mission, I will be able to worship the big boss. Just thinking about it makes me excited. However, Dou Fusher suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did he have to look for me? Big Brother is so powerful, is there anything that he can't do? This mission is definitely going to be very dangerous. Dou Fusher felt that he had to give it his all. If he wins, he will join the group and worship the big boss. If he loses, he will cry. When he heard the mission, Dou Fusher was stupefied. I am actually asked to go on a blind date. Although I am just putting on an act, Dou Fusher is already very satisfied. This isn't even considered a mission at all. It's just a small mission, I can settle it in a few minutes. However, Dou Fusher still doesn't know who his blind date partner is. There is still Zhu Tian who is eyeing him covetously. In a coffee shop in Long'an City, Dou Fusher saw his blind date partner and was stupefied by the other party's appearance and aura. This is the blind date partner. Why does he look so good? I'm finished, my heart is beating so fast, I'm going to die, this appearance, this figure, this is too perfect. Meanwhile, Brett was also observing Dou Fusher, and her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. I don't understand why His Honor arranged such a weak man, he is 10,000 times worse than Zhu Tian. Look at him, he doesn't have any confidence at all. A man like him is actually blushing. If not for His Honor's order, he would have already left. However, Yi Hua and the others were standing not far away from Brett. Of course, this was not something that others could see, not even Brett noticed. After all, this was a spell cast by an overlord. If Brett was able to notice it, it meant that his strength had reached the pinnacle. His Honor, this arrangement of yours is too bad, he isn't worthy of Brett at all. Lai Gu muttered. Even if you want to put on a show, you should at least find a stronger one. Yi Hua said faintly, it is precisely because he is weak. Wei Chang nodded his head. He understood what His Honor meant. Zhu Tian is probably going to faint from anger. I didn't expect Brett to find such a weak person. His Honor is truly becoming more and more intelligent, subordinates admire him greatly. Right now, not only does he have to look at the big picture, he also has to take care of the subordinates' private life. Did you send out any messages? Yi Hua asked indifferently. If the male lead is missing from this matter, then what is the point of playing with the hammer? Wei Chang said respectfully, Your Honor can be at ease, we have already leaked out a bit of information in the group, I believe that Zhu Tian should already know about it. That's good. Absolute Heaven must not find out about this matter. This subordinate obeys. Everyone looked at the couple again. Dou Fusher lowered his head and took a sip of the coffee on the table before asking in a low voice, "What do you usually do?" Yi Hua and the others immediately face-palmed. "Can't you King ask some questions that have technical content? Do you want me, the Supreme Overlord, to teach you how to go on a blind date?" Brett almost couldn't help but slap him. He couldn't compare to absolute heaven at all. "Murder," Brett said coldly. Puff. Dou Fusher couldn't hold it in, and a little bit of coffee flowed out of the corner of his mouth. This woman was too cold. She killed people at the slightest provocation. Couldn't she be a little more subtle? Like fighting and killing? "Actually, I'm good at killing people too." Dou Fusher calmed himself down. His mission was to gain Brett's favor, but when he thought about how it was fake, he felt a little sad. What if Brett is really unable to extricate herself from falling in love with me? When the time comes, I would have to tell her that everything is fake. It would be too hurtful. After all, Dou Fusher can be counted as an outstanding man. Back then, even my sister-in-law had thoughts about me. It's fortunate that I calmed myself down. If not, I would have let down my big brother. Brett sneered, "How many did you kill?" Can we not talk about this bloody topic and talk about Ki, and talk about the world instead?" "Not interested." "Let's talk about food then. There is a newly opened hot pot restaurant that is especially good. How about we go there?" "Not interested." "Then, what are you interested in?" "Murder." "Dou Fusher, this is simply impossible to communicate with. We are not even on the same channel at all." Brett suddenly wrinkled her brows and said faintly, "Come and sit over here." "Ah. I told you to come over, so come over." Brett's beautiful eyes turned cold, scaring Dou Fusher to the point that he almost peed in his pants. Dou Fusher immediately sat beside Brett, and Brett lightly leaned onto Dou Fusher's shoulder. Just like that, Dou Fusher panicked. "So fragrant, it's really fragrant. Is this the fragrance of a woman?" "That's not right, we were just talking about murder just a moment ago. Aren't you being too careless?" "After all, I, Dou Fusher, am not a casual man." Suddenly, a man who wore a white suit walked into the coffee shop. The man's expression was frighteningly gloomy, and it seemed as if he would explode at any moment. The man who came was precisely Zhu Tian. When he saw the contents of the WeChat group, he almost couldn't help but release his spiritual pressure. Brett actually went on a tryst. Which bastard dares to date my, Zhu Tian's, woman? Is he tired of living? Bringing along his anger, Zhu Tian directly rushed over. Furthermore, when he saw the cold and arrogant Brett leaning onto a man's shoulder, a trace of an arc actually appeared on the corner of Zhu Tian's mouth. This arc is something that even Zhu Tian himself has never seen before. "Your Honor, will Zhu Tian go berserk?" Wei Chang asked in a low voice. "Right now, Zhu Tian is very unstable." Yi Hua shook his head. To be able to endure under such a situation, Zhu Tian can be considered to be strong. "Green Hat, just thinking about it makes me excited," Lai Gu said sneakily. Tang Wei, who was at the side, said tenderly, "Brett only likes absolute heaven." This sentence was rather pertinent. Don't look at how stubborn Brett was right now. In truth, his heart was filled with absolute heaven. No matter what kind of person he was, he would compare himself to absolute heaven. It could be seen just how important absolute heaven was in Brett's heart. At this moment, when Dou Fusher saw absolute heaven, he instantly felt hostility. Coupled with Brett's previous actions, this person was definitely absolute heaven's ex-boyfriend. Hee hee. How could I, Dou Fusher, be afraid of such a pretty boy? Floating Dou did not know of absolute heaven's identity at all. If he had known, he would not have accepted this quest even if he was beaten to death. Absolute heaven walked over with a sullen expression on his face. He then sat down on the opposite side, his eyes fixed on the two of them. However, Dou Fusher performed a shocking feat, causing Yi Hua and the others to go into a daze. What a good fellow! How daring! Do Fusher grabbed Brett's shoulder and shouted at absolute heaven, "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beautiful woman and a handsome guy before? This brat is not bad, Your Honor, where did you find this weirdo from?" Lai Gu's heart was filled with admiration. Even I don't dare to speak to Zhu Tian like this, and yet, this fellow is actually not afraid. Chapter 580. Yi Hua said faintly, "Wei Chang was the one who found me." Lai Gu then asked Wei Chang, "Where did you find him?" Wei Chang said indifferently, "It was Death Mage who found me." Lai Gu then looked towards Death Mage and asked, "Brother, where did you find him?" GGG, Imperial translation, there is no longer any meaning to it, that brother has to live. On the other side, Do Fusher's eyes bulged as he displayed his most savage side, staring straight at absolute heaven. Why do I feel that this expression is a bit similar to the Lai Gu in the past? Wei Chang interrupted. Lai Gu was very confused and asked curiously, "How is that possible?" "The days when you were a dog." Lai Gu, not to mention, Do Fusher's ferocious appearance was very similar to that of an arrogant husky. "I'm going to be terrified soon," absolute heaven coldly stared at Do Fusher. He was prepared to kill this lowly ant in front of him. Even he was willing to accompany Brett on a blind date. He was overestimating himself. However, Do Fusher still did not know that absolute heaven was about to make a move. Do Fusher extended his chin forward, revealing a row of teeth as if he was about to bite someone. Brett said lightly, "He was introduced by our boss. Try touching him if you dare." Zhu Tian was startled. "His Honor arranged this? How could this be? Isn't His Honor standing on my side?" "Boss saw that I was too lonely, so he arranged a man for me." Brett slowly hugged Do Fusher's arm and said in a sweet voice. Do Fusher's ferocious expression was a little strange, because within this ferocious expression, there was even a hint of shyness. This kind of expression had already caused Lai Gu to burst into laughter. This brother is really too funny. In the past, the Green and Red brothers were also very funny. Now that they have a girlfriend, they are much more mature. Sensing the fragrance around him, Do Fusher coldly snorted, "Who are you? Can't you see we're on a date? Hurry up and get lost." "Everyone," Wei Chang let out a sigh, "even if this matter is over, this world of solitude, to actually shout 'Scram' in front of absolute heaven." Do Fusher was so arrogant, and the source of his arrogance was Brett. With a beauty by his side, how could his aura be weak? What would he do if he was looked down upon? This man was handsome, but his nails were thicker than hers. Moreover, his attitude was very bad. It was obvious that he was here to snatch her away. If the person was snatched away, then wouldn't his mission be ruined? Then the matter of him joining the team would be gone. No. He had to become a hero. The blue veins on Zhu Tian's forehead bulged. This man actually dared to publicly insult him, and even told him to scram. Absolute heaven's entire body was in a terrible state. However, his rationality still prevailed, and he did not accidentally kill off Floating Do. If Floating Battle Do was really killed now, then he would have died in vain. When Do Fusher thought about this matter in the future, he could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. It was as though he had taken a stroll through the gates of hell. "Brett, what's the point of doing this?" Absolute heaven questioned coldly. Seeing Brett hugging another man, absolute heaven felt extremely displeased in his heart, and every hair on his body stood on end. Brett giggled, stretching out a slender finger and stroking Do Fusher's face. "He's much stronger than you." Seeing Brett's frivolous actions, absolute heaven fiercely slammed his palm on the table. How could the table withstand absolute heaven's slap? The surrounding people were quite frightened. Lai Gu rubbed his chin and said faintly, "This is the first time I've seen absolute heaven lose his temper." Wei Chang silently nodded his head. It seems like Brett had truly angered this cold cat. "How is he stronger than me?" Absolute heaven questioned, his pair of eyes were about to pop out, and his handsome face was incomparably fierce. Brett's eyes slightly narrowed. He knows to protect me, what about you? Absolute Heaven's expression changed. He was unable to refute Brett's words. For so many years, he had never treated Brett well, and the words he spoke the most were rejection. Looking at Absolute Heaven's hesitant face, Brett suddenly felt a little sour in his heart, but he did not say anything. However, right now, Do Fusher was about to say something. Did you see what the beauty said just now? She said that he knew to protect her, and her manliness was bursting. Do Fusher once again performed a magnificent feat, shocking everyone present. Brat! Where are you from? Do you know who I am? Do Fusher pushed Absolute Heaven, who was in a daze, onto the sofa and sat down. Lv Liang, who was watching from the back, raised her thumb. This is a real man, wanting a beauty more than his life. Yi Hong felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher's fierce words. Meanwhile, Zi Shan and the others were dumbstruck and covered their mouths. Absolute Heaven was actually pushed down by Do Fusher. He even dared to be so arrogant. Can't he be more low profile? Yi Hua felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher pushing down Absolute Heaven. This Absolute Heaven still needs a beating to wake him up. When Brett saw Absolute Heaven being pushed down by Do Fusher, he felt great in his heart. Absolute Heaven, to think that you would have such a day. Fusher, let's go and get a room. Brett stood up while holding on to Do Fusher's arm. He even said something like getting a room, wanting to anger Absolute Heaven to death. Do Fusher felt that happiness came too suddenly. Didn't we agree to put on an act? Why did we end up getting a room right after putting on an act? Could it be that this is one of the benefits from the mission? Boss treats me too well, I worship him in my heart. I know of a hotel that has a pretty good waterbed. Do Fusher revealed an evil smile. In Absolute Heaven's eyes, Do Fusher was simply an unpardonable criminal. I'll listen to you, Brett said sweetly, as if she was allowing Do Fusher to bully her. Do Fusher actually hugged onto Brett's slender waist. This action of Do Fusher's was rather worrying. Do Fusher was afraid that Brett wouldn't be able to endure it and would end up F** King Do Fusher. Fortunately, for the sake of Absolute Heaven, Brett didn't say anything and even maintained a smile on her face, and even called Do Fusher sweetly. This caused Do Fusher to feel extremely happy. This voice sounds so good, it's so coquettish that I can't stand it anymore. I wonder if it will be even better when we get to the hotel. Stop right there. Absolute Heaven shouted out coldly. The people in the coffee shop looked towards Do Fusher's direction once again. There were even a few martial artists who had 1 star imprinted on their chests, curiously sizing up Do Fusher and Do Fusher. Do Fusher stopped his footsteps, then said in a low voice, "This ex-boyfriend of yours is really hateful." "That's right, can you help me hit him?" "I will let you feel better in a while," Brett said tenderly. Do Fusher's expression immediately became excited. Just based on that last sentence, I will climb a mountain of swords and dive into a sea of flames. Do Fusher could be seen once again performing a shocking feat. This time, even Yi Hua was stupefied. Do Fusher turned around and walked towards Absolute Heaven. When Absolute Heaven saw Do Fusher walking towards Do Fusher, Absolute Heaven was currently pondering whether or not he should disobey his honor's order and kill off this damned man. Bang! Just as Absolute Heaven was pondering, a punch actually landed onto his face. Chapter 581. The speed at which Fusher punched out was not fast, as if he was a normal person. However, it was precisely because of this that his punch landed fiercely on Absolute Heaven's face. Bang, bang. Absolute Heaven never thought that this man would really dare to hit him. Brett had also never expected that Absolute Heaven would actually not dodge. However, he still felt very satisfied in his heart. Well fought. Yi Hua and the others started to admire Zhu Tian. For you to be able to land a punch on Zhu Tian, it means that your courage has already passed the test. Yi Hua said to Wei Chang, if Do Fusher is still alive, after this matter is over, just take him in. This subordinate obeys. Wei Chang said respectfully. Lai Gu mumbled, I haven't even slapped Zhu Tian's face before. Dou Fusher felt very good. He raised his fist and shouted, brat. Don't think that I won't hit you just because you're handsome. Even if your boss comes, I'm not afraid. Do you know who my boss is? He's known as the Jianghu's brother Zhen. I'm afraid you'll be scared to death if I tell you. Alright, ignore him. Let's go. Brett walked over and pulled Dou Fusher back. However, Absolute Heaven did not pay any attention to him. Instead, he pulled Brett into his embrace, cupped Brett's face with both hands, and kissed him. Dou Fusher was stunned. You pretty boy, you actually dared to disrespect my blind date girl in front of me. Let's see if Papa doesn't beat you to death today. After saying so, Absolute Heaven raised his fist and punched towards Absolute Heaven. Unfortunately, someone was even faster than Floating Dou. Brett sent Absolute Heaven flying with a single punch, and a large hole appeared in the roof. Dou Fusher stared at Brett in shock. You're even more vicious than me. You've even sent someone flying. Yi Hua sighed. This Zhu Tian's guts are not small, to directly kiss me just like that. Brett can already be considered to be good if he only punched me once. Those one-star martial artists weren't calm at all. They thought that it was just a fight between ordinary people, but they didn't expect it to be so powerful. One punch was enough to send someone flying into the sky. Brett wiped his lips, and his face turned slightly red. He cursed Absolute Heaven for being shameless in his heart. He actually forcefully kissed me. Bastard! Brimming with anger, Brett stomped on the ground, causing it to crack. Then, he shot out like a rocket. Seeing this, Dou Fusher also followed. That damned man actually dared to take advantage of my blind date. Later, I'll let him see my own strength. I'm the famous gold raiding captain. Finding dragons and exploring caves is as easy as flipping my hand. These main characters had all changed locations, and Yi Hua and the others also followed along and changed locations. The good show had just begun. Absolute Heaven vs. Brett. Brett, who had soared into the sky, stood in the void, coldly looking at Absolute Heaven. Do you know what you were doing just now? I know, it feels really good. Absolute Heaven's lips were still stained with some lipstick, but at this moment, Absolute Heaven felt really good. Brett was even angrier and was ready to teach this damned man a lesson. Stop! Floating World arrived late. Who asked them to fly so high? He had only managed to climb up after much difficulty. When Brett saw that Dou Fusher had arrived, his brows furrowed. Brett, let me. After saying that, Dou Fusher took out his peachwood sword, bit his finger, and smeared his blood on the wooden sword. Instantly, a faint red light bloomed. You pretty boy. To actually dare to bully my woman, don't you know whose underling I am? If you wait for my big brother to come, I'll tell you, you will be finished. It's too early for you to admit defeat now. Dou Fusher stood behind Brett, pointed his sword towards Absolute Heaven, and shouted out loudly. Looking at that serious look on Dou Fusher's face, he doesn't seem to be joking. Absolute Heaven sighed in his heart. He somewhat understood his honor's meaning, but where did his honor find such a weirdo? She is my woman. Do you understand? Absolute Heaven didn't want to talk too much with Dou Fusher. After all, Dou Fusher was the one who was called over by his honor. That punch I gave Brett just now can be considered as me letting Brett feel good. Dou Fusher shouted out coldly, what your woman? Stop boasting shamelessly. If you still don't admit defeat, I'm going to call you Big Brother. My big brother's big brother is even more powerful. My big brother's big brother's big brother is unrivaled. It's not that I'm boasting, but I can kill you with just a flick of my finger. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. This Dou Fusher is really, really good at boasting. You can leave. Absolute Heaven said faintly. Dou Fusher looked at Absolute Heaven in disbelief. You are actually not afraid? Let me tell you, I am going to call my big brother over right now. After speaking, Do Fusher really took out his phone and called Death Mage. However, Death Mage's phone was already switched off. Sorry, the number that you have dialed is currently switched off. Do Fusher was a bit embarrassed. He took a look at Brett, then looked at Absolute Heaven, then said, "Don't be anxious, my big brother is very busy, let me call a few more people." Death Mage, who was standing in the group, was speechless. Even I am going to call my big brother Absolute Heaven, and you are still calling me over. Don't you know that this will make things even more awkward? Little friend, you can go back now, there is nothing else for you to do here. Absolute Heaven said lightly. Do Fusher was angered. To actually call me little friend, there is a beauty by my side, I cannot lose my face. Just you wait, I am going to call my sister-in-law, you are finished. The corner of Sun Fang's mouth twitched, then she immediately took out her phone and switched off her phone. When the people at the side saw Sun Fang's action, they took a look at Do Fusher, who was in the middle of the stage, and suddenly felt that Do Fusher was very pitiful. "Hello, the number that you have dialed is currently switched off." Do Fusher's face darkened. Why did the two of them switch off their phones? They are the kings of the game. They don't even leave their phones. After a long while, Do Fusher forced a smile and said, "My big brother and sister-in-law are definitely busy with something, I will stand at the side and wait for a while, you will be in for a good show." This Do Fusher was rather smart. After realizing that the other party was stronger than him, he immediately called his big brother. Because the other party was able to charge up to the cloud layer without even blushing, and even got punched by Brett, while I am about to fall down from the cloud layer after running up to the cloud layer. Do Fusher's words made Yi Hua and the others look towards Death Mage and Sun Fang. That gaze of Do Fusher seemed to be asking, "How did you two handle things?" Sun Fang's face immediately turned red. "How did I handle things?" This is completely Do Fusher's own imagination. "Brett, you don't have to be afraid, after my big brother and sister-in-law are done with their matters, they will come over." Do Fusher turned his head around and said seriously, "As a man, I should protect my woman properly." Brett said coldly, "Stand at the side." "Ah. Stand at the side. Don't you understand?" Brett's beautiful eyes turned cold, scaring Do Fusher to the point that he shivered. Why does this woman suddenly change? Just a moment ago, she was still treating me like that, and now, she is acting like this. Do Fusher pitifully walked to the side, then looked at the two of them and felt extremely gloomy. "How pitiful." Li Gu mumbled. "Although this is just a mission, this is still too much of a blow to me." However, Do Fusher was able to endure this kind of blow. "After taking a nap, I guarantee that everything will be fine. Brett. If I am able to defeat you, will you follow me?" Zhu Tian shouted out. "Humph. Say that after you defeat me." Chapter 582. Starting a fight just because of a disagreement, this truly makes one blush with shame. But right at that moment, another voice sounded out, "Stop." The two people who were about to start a fight stopped. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, wished that he could slap the person who shouted for them to stop to death. "It isn't easy for me to watch my subordinates fight, what are you guys doing here?" Not only Yi Hua felt disappointed, his subordinates felt the same as well. Half of their pants were taken off, and they actually came to inspect the room. Don't you think that this is infuriating? Only 2 moon-rank experts could be seen. They rushed straight over with vigilance in their eyes. The two people stopped in the air at the side, and one of them shouted out, "We are from the Peace Association, fighting is prohibited in the sky above the city." Peace Association? Yi Hua had only heard of it, but this is the first time I have come into contact with this group of people. I wonder who this big shot of the Peace Association is. Will he come and find trouble with me, then I will have a reason to retaliate? Just thinking about it makes me a little happy. Zhu Tian and Brett looked at the people from the Peace Association coldly, and the latter immediately felt that his heart skipped a beat. These two people could be counted as people from the cultivation world previously, if not, they wouldn't have a moon. Just that, Long An City was in the south, and Ju Tian had only appeared in the north, so they didn't recognize Ju Tian at all. Fighting in the sky above the city without permission, you will be detained for 15 days. Follow us. One of the men was very arrogant, he didn't differentiate the strength of both sides at all. Do Fusher shouted out, "It is all this man's fault, that beauty is innocent. Don't speak, you come along as well." The corner of Do Fusher's mouth slightly twitched. "You all are too indiscriminate, who gave you all the right to do this?" "Who?" "You all don't have the qualifications to know, you all just need to know one thing, in the future, what the Peace Association says is the law, if anyone dares to resist, they will be killed without mercy." Yi Hua and the others were very surprised. "I didn't expect this Peace Association to be so arrogant, they truly live up to their name. Look at those big shots from the Justice and Order Alliance, they are all very low profile, they can be dismissed with just pickled cabbage noodles." Brett snorted coldly, "What bullshit association, you all dare to shout in front of me?" After finished speaking, she slapped the air. The man who didn't curse was sent flying. Judging from his height, he was at least out of the atmosphere. "Why did I not say anything, and the one who slapped me was at me?" "Did you slap the wrong person?" The man who scolded them was stunned. "Who are these two?" "They sent a Moon-class elite flying with one slap." "You all actually dare to murder a law enforcer, this is a death sentence, you all just wait, you all are finished." After finished speaking, the law enforcer turned around and ran, and he was the kind that didn't care about his life anymore. Brett snorted and a jade bow appeared in her hand. She pulled the bow and shot it. From the ground, it looked like a shooting star, exceptionally beautiful. The man died in midair without any pain. Brett, who had insulted the 7 deadly sins, did not want to live anymore. Ju Tian froze, he didn't dare to be careless, because that arrow had once again flown back. As one of the 7 deadly sins, absolute heaven knew of Bright's weakness. Bright was extremely afraid of getting into close combat. As long as Bright got into close combat, Bright's battle prowess would decrease by half. Just as Brett was about to let his guard down, absolute heaven displayed his abnormal speed and locked Brett in place with a retreating stance. Lai Gu exclaimed in admiration, "Your posture isn't bad." The girls at the side couldn't help but roll their eyes at Lai Gu. In Lai Gu's eyes, everything has a different meaning. When Do Fusher saw this, he was stunned as well. He felt that he didn't have enough spirit chi. Beauty. "Hold on, I will go and call Big Brother." After finished speaking, Do Fusher helplessly descended from the sky. If not, he would have to freefall and fall from the sky. Ju Tian tightly held on to Brett, and at this moment, Brett's weakness was revealed. The golden arrow was flying towards the two of them. Is Brett planning to perish together with Yi Hua? Yi Hua's expression became a bit grave, and the people at the back also became nervous. The relaxed atmosphere immediately became heavy. F***K, have these two people gone mad? Lai Gu couldn't help but shout out. Yi Hua didn't say anything. Brett should be trying to scare Ju Tian. Ju Tian hugged onto Brett tightly and said beside Brett's ear, "If death can make you forgive me, I am willing." Ju Tian. "Even if you die, I will not forgive you." Brett shouted out, and the golden arrow immediately shone with a bright light. The golden arrow flew towards the two of them while emitting a terrifying aura. Yi Hua swallowed his saliva. What is this Ju Tian planning to do? Right now, Yi Hua was considering whether he should make a move or not. If an accident were to occur, it would be hard to say what would happen. After all, Brett's jade bow was no joke. After charging up its power, it would be able to instantly kill an overlord. Seeing that the golden arrow was getting closer and closer to the two of them, Brett had already closed her beautiful eyes. "My heart is tired. I am really tired." If I die like this, his honor won't force me to get married, and I will be able to make Ju Tian suffer for the rest of his life. Thinking about it, it is quite worth it. How could Ju Tian possibly let Brett die? He knew that Brett would definitely not stop until he got his revenge. Therefore, Ju Tian suddenly threw Brett, who was in his embrace, away. The golden arrow that carried along the aura of death pierced through Ju Tian's abdomen, and a fist-sized hole appeared on Ju Tian's abdomen. Yi Hua was stupefied, everyone was stupefied, Brett was also stupefied. As one of the 7 deadly sins, even if it was an overlord's weapon, it would be hard for them to injure each other. Furthermore, Brett had charged up his power for this attack, and it wasn't as simple as just a stab. Absolute Heaven violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body sank into darkness as he fell from the sky. Brett just stared blankly. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his head was buzzing. There was no longer any meaning in hiding. All of them revealed themselves. Yi Hua hurriedly stabilized Ju Tian, who was falling to the ground. The wound on Ju Tian's abdomen was extremely terrifying, and it was currently corroding Ju Tian's body. Without much time to think, Yi Hua immediately brought Ju Tian back to Leisure Bar. If Ju Tian doesn't receive treatment soon, he might die. When everyone returned to the Leisure Bar, none of them spoke a word. Brett was still in a dazed state as he foolishly looked at Absolute Heaven, who was on the table. Yi Hua took out all of the healing medicines, such as Clear Soul Condensing Pill, 6 Yin Qi Returning Pill, Supreme Spirit Gathering Pill, Sky Bewitching Ganoderma Grass, and so on, Suihan Buddha Chaos Pagoda. An exquisite pagoda could be seen appearing in Yi Hua's hand, and the pagoda slowly floated onto Ju Tian's body. The pagoda then emitted a Buddha's light that shone onto Ju Tian's body. Meanwhile, Ju Tian slowly changed back to his original form, a cat with strange fur laid powerlessly on the table. However, his chest was still moving up and down, causing everyone to let out a breath of relief. "It's good that he didn't die, Your Honor, Ju Tian is here," Wei Chang asked respectfully. "Thanks to my brothers for the tickets." Chapter 583. Yi Hua took a look at Brett, then said gravely, "This attack nearly took his life. Right now, we can only protect him. Maybe in a few hundred or even a few thousand years, they will be able to take human form." Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. They didn't expect it to be so serious. Brett fainted on the spot when he heard this. To be able to make Brett of the 7 deadly sins faint, what kind of blow was this? Yi Hua shook his head. "I really didn't expect that Absolute Heaven would be willing to die to save Brett." Ju Tian's situation was different from Zi Shan and Yi Hang's situation, where Ju Tian only needed a strand of Wei Chang's black mist to be able to revive them. Ju Tian's strength was terrifying, and even Yi Hua could only temporarily preserve Ju Tian's life. If Ju Tian were to be injured a second time, even Yi Hua wouldn't be able to save Ju Tian. Yi Zizi suddenly came down from upstairs. She looked at Absolute Heaven, who was on the verge of death, before looking at Brett, who had fainted. Yi Zizi shook her head. She then carried Absolute Heaven in her arms and walked upstairs. This stupid cat was actually willing to die for a woman. It was really embarrassing. Yi Hua sat on the high chair and didn't say anything as he drank his wine. All of the subordinates did not dare to make a sound and just stood there obediently. As for Zi Shan and Tang Wei, both of them were supporting Brett, who had fainted. No one had expected such a thing to happen. Absolute Heaven was actually prepared to die. This was even more unimaginable. Especially for Wei Chang and Lai Gu. Absolute Heaven didn't seem like the kind of man who would die for love. In the past, he didn't even put women in his eyes. Only now did they realize that Absolute Heaven was just putting on an act. In fact, Absolute Heaven had long since had Brett in his heart. It was only because of his pride that he did not accept it. Now that he was almost gone, what was the point of keeping his face? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have acted in the first place. After a while, Brett faintly woke up. When he saw that absolute heaven had disappeared from the table, leaving behind only a pool of blood, he immediately started crying loudly. His heart-wrenching appearance made it seem as if his husband had just died. Enough. What are you crying for? You aren't dead yet. Yihua wrinkled his brows and shouted out coldly. It's fine to just scare me a little, but you actually got serious. Now you know regret. Your Honor, I'm sorry. Hearing that Zhu Tian was still alive, Brett calmed down quite a bit, and hurriedly apologized. What's the use of apologizing to me? Are you satisfied with absolute heaven's current state? I've already lowered my head to you, but you're still so stubborn. Yihua shouted out angrily. If it was according to Yihua's temper in the past, I would have given Brett a few slaps right now. Brett is too insensible. Brett powerlessly kneeled onto the ground, and one after another, tears fell onto the ground. Right now, I am already regretting. People only know how to cherish when they have lost something. When Yihong looked at Brett, she thought of herself and Zishan. It would be great if big brother Zhu Tian could be saved like me. But, Wei Chang, go and inform Zhu Tian's family. Yihua said gravely. After such a big matter happened, I still have to inform Zhu Tian's family. Yes. Wei Chang disappeared from Leisure Bar and brought Dong Fang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin with him. The two still didn't know what was going on, and they respectfully knelt down and shouted out, "We pay our respects to your honor." Get up. Yihua said gravely. Dong Fang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin stood up and realized that the atmosphere was not right. There were bloodstains on the table beside them and Brett was sobbing on the floor. Moreover, absolute heaven's figure was nowhere to be seen. A bad premonition lingered in the minds of the two women. Absolute heaven is injured, he needs to rest here for a period of time. Yihua lit up a stick of cigarette and said gravely. I really don't know when absolute heaven will recover. Dongfang Yu'er and Guan Yanxin didn't dare to believe that absolute heaven would be injured. He is the subordinate of a supreme overlord, who would be able to injure him. Unless, the two women looked towards Brett who was sobbing on the floor. Your Honor, is absolute heaven still all right? Guan Yanxin's red lips trembled, and her beautiful face tensed up. His life is hanging by a thread. Yihua could only describe absolute heaven's situation like this. Hearing that, Guan Yanxin paused for a moment. My entire family was killed, and right now, even absolute heaven is about to die. Such a blow caused Guan Yanxin to immediately fall backwards. Dongfang Yu'er looked weak, but she didn't fall backwards like Guan Yanxin. Instead, she turned her head around and looked towards Brett. Everyone looked at the weak Dongfang Yu'er walking towards Brett. In the past, when Dongfang Yu'er saw Brett, she would appear to be afraid, but right now, Dongfang Yu'er didn't have any fear at all. Standing in front of Brett, Dongfang Yu'er raised her arm high up. Everyone didn't say anything. This time, Brett had indeed gone too far. This Dongfang Yu'er almost lost her man, who would believe that she wasn't angry. However, Dongfang Yu'er's slap did not land on Yihua's face. Instead, tears flowed down from Dongfang Yu'er's face. Why are you so heartless? Absolute heaven likes you so much, and yet, you still want to injure him. Why? Say something. Dongfang Yu'er shook Brett's shoulder, and a sense of desolation pervaded the air. Brett didn't reply and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose, I also didn't want this to happen. Hearing what Yihua said, Dongfang Yu'er sat on the floor paralyzed and cried bitterly. I already told you all that absolute heaven overlord isn't dead yet. Are you crying for me? Yihua shouted out angrily and threw the cigarette butt onto the floor. Seeing that his honor was angry, everyone lowered their heads and didn't dare to say anything. In actuality, the one who was the most vexed was Yihua. He had planned this out of good intentions, yet, I didn't expect that one of my men would almost die. This is simply lifting a rock and smashing it on my own feet. In the future, I will never do such a wicked thing again. This is retribution. Suddenly, A ray of white light flashed across the bar, and Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji appeared. Seeing her husband and subordinates standing together, a woman fainting, and two women sitting on the floor crying, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji looked very puzzled. Subordinates pay respect to the two madams. Everyone shouted out respectfully. Even Brett and Dongfang Yuer shouted out while choking with sobs. This? What happened? Qingye walked over and asked. Yihua didn't expect that his wife would actually rush over and said faintly, "It's nothing, something happened to Zhu Tian." Something happened to Zhu Tian? Dong Huang Baiji became even more puzzled. Your subordinates are so formidable, how could something happen to them? Seeing how Brett and Dongfang Yuer were crying so miserably, it seems like it isn't a small matter. Did he meet with a strong enemy? Qingye asked gravely. What strong enemy? It was all because of me. Wei Chang, speak, I don't want to speak anymore. Yihua was very gloomy. I lost a powerful general in such a short period of time, don't you think that I am angry? Yes. Wei Chang responded, then said gravely, today, His Honor arranged for Zhu Tian and Brett to meet. Yihua. After hearing what Yihua said, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji more or less understood what was going on. Both of them looked towards their man at the same time. Aren't you worrying for nothing? After hearing what Yihua said, he felt even more so. Seeing the unkind gaze of his two wives, Yihua changed the topic and asked, why did you two suddenly come over? Chapter 584. Ali and Yan disappeared again. Yihua exclaimed. From this sentence, it could be seen that this wasn't the first time the two little fellows disappeared. When they had nothing to do, they would hide and let the adults worry about them. Right now, they couldn't do anything about it. If you scold them, they would cry, and the next day, they would continue playing hide and seek with you. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji weren't too worried right now. After all, Ali had displayed his strength in the past, and he was very strong. Even if he brought his little brother to play, it would be fine. In the beginning, Qingye was still very worried. After all, Yan was still so young. However, after that, she became speechless. Basically, she could only see her son at night, and he would disappear during the day. Ever since Dong Huangli had her little brother, it was the same. Dong Huang Baiji could only see her daughter at night, unless she locked the two little fellows up. She tried to lock the two little fellows up, but it was very quickly solved by them. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's right, the sun is about to set, and he still hasn't returned. Qingye shook her head. My son is even more mischievous than I imagined. Yihua was very relieved. You two don't have to worry so much, he will come back sooner or later, nothing will happen. Qingye said, how old is he, and he is already like this? What will happen in the future? That's right, Ali is the same now. Dong Huang Baiji shook her head. In the past, Ali was so obedient and sensible, but now that he has a playmate, his mischievous personality came out. Yihua said gravely, then, I will lock them up next time. Don't, there will be shadows. What else could Yihua do? These two women always do whatever they say. Alright, you all can disperse first. Zhu Tian will be fine after he recuperates. Brett, you will stay at Zhu Tian's place for the next few days. Yihua arranged carefully. If Zhu Tian isn't around, Dongfang family will be in a bit of danger. Letting Brett go over to Zhu Tian's place was firstly to take care of him, and secondly to get along well with them. In the future, Zhu Tian will be able to enjoy the bliss of having two wives. Just like Lai Gu, 3. I only have 2, and you two actually have one more than me. Your Honor, can I take a look at Zhu Tian? Brett said pleadingly. Right now, Brett was no longer as cold and arrogant as before. What are you looking at? Isn't it messy enough? Zhu Tian and Dongfang Yu. Brett didn't dare to go against Yihua's will, and Dongfang Yuan also didn't dare to go against Yihua's will. Everyone returned to their own positions, and Yihua drank the wine in his hand. Let's go. Let's go find those two little fellows. They're getting bolder and bolder. Yihua. You need to calm down, it's not like they did it on purpose. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi hurriedly held on to the man, fearing that Yihua would start beating the man up. Yihua turned his head around and asked gravely, "Weren't you guys the one who wanted to go and look for him? Weren't you the ones who wanted to teach them a lesson? Were they going to look for it? Are you going to fight or not?" Qingye hurriedly comforted her husband. "The children are still young, they like to play outside, calm down." That's right, with Ali looking after the child, how could anything go wrong?" Donghuang Baizhi also joined in, fearing that Yihua would hit the child. Meanwhile, Yihua laughed in his heart. "Ali, Yan, father can only help you to this point. Be at ease and have fun, your mother won't come and look for you." In the desert in the north, two small figures were playing on a sand dune. They were precisely Dong Huangli and Yi Yan who had sneaked out. As for how they managed to sneak out, they naturally relied on Ali's teleportation. It came out with a "Biu" sound. "Big sister, do you think that daddy will be able to stall mommy?" Yi Yan was sitting on the skateboard, and Dong Huangli was standing behind him. "Don't worry, daddy is formidable, we will be able to play more today," Dong Huangli said with a sweet smile, then rubbed onto her little brother's head. Yi Yan patted his chest. "Moms are too scary. Sister is still the best. Quickly push Yan, Alright, Yan, sit tight, I'll push you." "Okay," Dong Huangli lightly pushed Yi Yan, and Yi Yan sat on the skateboard and slid down from the sand dune. Yi Yan was screaming, and he seemed to be having a great time. Sliding down, Yi Yan shouted, "Sister, come down quickly." "Alright." Dong Huangli waved her hand, then slid down from the sand dune. Looking at his sister's valiant demeanor, Yi Yan clapped his hands and shouted, "Sister is so awesome." Dong Huangli patted on her butt. "Of course, if not, how can I be your big sister?" "Ha, big sister, let's go play with the big crab." "Those aren't called crabs, those are scorpions and rattlesnakes," Dong Huangli taught attentively. Yi Yan felt that his brain wasn't enough to understand what Dong Huangli was thinking. Yi Yan laughed foolishly. "Big sister is still the best, Yan, is unable to remember. Let big sister teach you then." "Alright," Dong Huangli clapped her hands and shouted, "Shao Yi. Quickly come out." Along with Dong Huangli's shout, the ground started shaking. It seemed like there was a huge monster underneath the sand. A whirlpool could be seen suddenly appearing, and a huge monster suddenly jumped out from the sand pit. The huge monster had 2 rows of antennae. If one had trypophobia, one would definitely vomit upon seeing those antennae. Furthermore, those eyes of the centipede looked just like scales that were reflecting light. However, when the huge centipede saw the 2 little fellows, it seemed like it was trembling a bit. This story needs to be told from half a month ago. That day was sunny, and the centipede was basking in the sun. Suddenly, the centipede heard the conversation of humans on its back. Insignificant humans actually dare to ride on the centipede's back, they must be tired of living. 1 minute later, the centipede ran away in a hurry. This is simply too cruel, inhumane. This was just the beginning. In the past 10+ days, the centipede was played by the 2 siblings like a husky. Yi Yan even forced the centipede to bark like a dog, and he even demonstrated how to bark like a dog. "Yan, this is a crab," Dong Huangli said proudly. Looking at the look of worship on her little brother's face, "I feel great. Finally, there is someone who worships me." Shao Air. Shao San. Shao Si. Boom, 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 the surface of the sand shook once again. A huge scorpion, a huge rattlesnake, and a lizard that looked just like Godzilla appeared. Although the three of them had ferocious looks on their faces, when they saw the even more ferocious pair of siblings, they didn't dare to move at all. Dong Huangli began teaching her little brother how to recognize animals. Even if Dong Huangli said something wrong, they still had to nod their heads. This is truly painful. Which family's brat is this? Hurry up and take him away, don't come and bring harm to the world. Right now, the sky was gradually getting dark. Adding family, which was located in the south. Ing Jingshan followed Death Mage's order and began releasing the first wave of ancient godly shards. This was a jade flute that belonged to He Tian back then. This time, the jade flute was finally put to use. After splitting the jade flute into 3 pieces, Ing Jingshan coughed lightly and threw the 3 pieces into the sky. Then, a huge amount of spiritual energy shot out from his finger. The spiritual energy made the ancient godly shards shine brightly, then flew towards 3 different directions. Chapter 585. After doing all that, Ing Jingshan laughed lightly and returned to his Ing family, waiting for the good news to come. When the 3 white lights appeared in the dark night, they looked so unique and bright. When everyone saw the 3 white lights, their eyes were filled with astonishment. When many cultivators saw this, they immediately chased after the 3 white lights. These are definitely treasures that fell from the sky. Among them, there was also Xian Ba, who joined the Peace Association. He had also left the jurisdiction of the big shots because it was too hard to stand out. There were more opportunities in a new place. Just like what Xian Ba thought, Xian Ba was recognized by the Peace Association and was now a middle-level manager. In the future, he might even become a high-level manager. In the Justice and Order Alliance, everyone saw it too, but they were not interested. Big Brother Qing, what is that? Wang Debao raised his head and asked curiously. Qing Tiandi licked the ice cream, it's probably a fragment of an ancient godly item. What? An ancient godly item needs to be broken into 3 pieces? Isn't this too weird? Feng Di couldn't help but ridicule. Right now, he really doesn't like this kind of weapon anymore. Feng Di leaned on the door and said faintly, to us, this isn't much, but to some newcomers, this is a treasure. In that case, the appearance of an ancient godly item's fragment will cause a commotion? Wang Debao muttered. Qing Tiandi held the ice cream in his mouth and poked it back and forth. That's right, Chen Xuanzong, don't you want to take a look? Take a look at what? Chen Xuanzong sat on a chair at the side and asked faintly. Of course, I want to inquire about the situation and see how it develops so that we can plan our next step. Qing Tiandi licked his lips. This ice cream is pretty good. Chen Xuanzong nodded his head and followed behind a white light. Bai Cixin, how many people did we recruit recently? Qing Tiandi asked faintly. All the big and small matters in the Justice and Order Alliance were managed by Bai Cixin. This greatly satisfied Bai Cixin's vanity, and she felt that she was no different from Voidless Realm's Empress. In terms of numbers, she even had the advantage. In the past week, we recruited 100,000 newcomers. Bai Cixin felt very good. Every day, she would sit on the main seat and enjoy everyone's worship. That kind of feeling was incomparable. On the other hand, Wang Debao was feeling great too. He could see his wife standing high above him and he could play with her every night. It was so exciting. Qing Tiandi laughed, right now, we are just waiting for an opportunity. When the time comes, we will be able to make a move against Voidless Realm. What opportunity? Bai Cixin also wanted to make a move against Voidless Realm, because Voidless Realm was the one who chased her out of the north and turned her into a stray dog. I also don't know. Qing Tiandi spread out his hands, he really didn't know. Bai Cixin was speechless. She turned around and walked into the room. Wang Debao followed. Time to sleep with my wife. At this moment, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan had already left the land of yellow sand and arrived at the nearest city. Sister, I want to eat fries. Yi Yan rubbed his stomach and pulled his sister back, looking at the KFC beside them. Dong Huangli also licked her lips. Speaking of which, it has been a long time since I last ate something like this. Moreover, he was hungry after playing for so long. But what could he do without money? Little brother, let's go back and eat. Dong Huangli suggested. The sky is already dark, if we still don't go back, my mother will get worried. Yi Yan was a little greedy. He bit his finger and said, Sister, let's eat before we go back. But big sister doesn't have money. Dong Huangli felt helpless. As the daughter of a supreme overlord, she was actually put in a difficult position by money. Sure enough, like father like daughter, both of them lack money. Sniff, sniff, sniff big sister, Yi Yan held on to Dong Huangli's hand and shook it, acting extremely cute. Dong Huangli couldn't do anything about it, after all, she was the big sister. Ali could be seen pulling her little brother to the side, and when they reappeared, the two little beggars appeared. Yen, later on, you will be in charge of crying, I will be in charge of shouting. Understood, Yi Yan nodded his head vigorously. This is fun. After finished speaking, the two of them sat at the entrance of the KFC. The two little actors immediately started acting. Wah! Yi Yan cried out loudly. His loud and clear cry could be heard even from a few streets away. Dong Huangli shouted out loudly, we are so pitiful, we have no parents since we were young, and we are all alone. My little brother is going to starve to death soon, he is so pitiful. If the two of them were to be seen by Yi Hua and the others, they would definitely be stupefied. Especially that sentence about them having no parents, it seems like the two of you just jumped out from a crack in a rock. Yi Yan's painful cries coupled with Ali's sweet shouts immediately attracted a lot of onlookers. Some people took out their phones to record the scene and uploaded it onto TikTok. What a pitiful pair of siblings. Seeing that the money in front of them was getting more and more, the two of them began to work harder and harder. This is simply a tragic world that we are living in. Thank you, kind-hearted person, I will bring my little brother to eat something first, he is going to starve to death soon. Dong Huangli hurriedly stuffed the money into her clothes, then pulled Yi Yan and walked into the KFC. Although the two of them were queuing up, there were still a lot of big brothers and big sisters who were filming the scene at the side, hoping that their accounts would become popular. When the time comes, they would have a lot of fans, and it wouldn't be a dream for them to become internet celebrities and earn money. The two of them didn't mind the scene and continued to queue up. However, the two of them weren't tall enough, and Dong Huangli could only carry her little brother on her shoulders. Even if Dong Huangli was able to carry her little brother on her shoulders, Yi Yan was only able to look at the counter with his eyes. Big sister, I want hamburgers, I want Coke, I want chicken wings, I want ice cream, I want fries, I want 2 servings of all of them. Yi Yan took the money that the big sister handed over to him and threw it onto the counter. I only have this much, can you hurry up? Big sister and I are going to starve to death soon, the waitress was moved by Yi Yan's cuteness. The money that Yi Yan bought is definitely enough, and the waitress even returned quite a bit of the money. Not long later, all the delicious food was served, and the waitress even brought the food over. Yi Yan stood on the chair, while Dong Huangli sat on the chair. The two of them began stuffing food into their mouths, looking as if they hadn't eaten for tens of days. Seeing how pitiful the two of them were, a lot of kind-hearted people also bought some food and sent it over. The two of them thanked the waitress over and over again. 1 hour later, the two of them finally ate their fill and walked out of the KFC with big stomachs. Big sister, if Yen dies from eating too much, don't tell father and mother, it's so embarrassing. Yi Yan let out a breath, I'm so full. Dong Huangli was the same as well. It has been a long time since I last ate so much. Looking at the oil stain on the corner of her little brother's mouth, Dong Huangli stretched out her hand and wiped off the oil stain on the corner of her little brother's mouth. If that's the case, big sister will accompany Yen, and die from eating too much. Big sister is the best, Yi Yan shouted out happily. If one were to say who Yi Yan liked the most, the number 1 would be big sister, the number 2 would be father, and the number 3 would be mother. If Qingya were to know the order in which her sons were ranked, she would definitely be angered to the point that she vomited blood. In order to give birth to you, I almost died, and in the end, I even had to rank mother third. How sad. However, 3 white lights that suddenly appeared attracted the two of them's gaze. Chapter 586. So beautiful. Looking at the night sky, Yi Yan muttered. Dong Huangli was also captivated. That's right, it's so beautiful. There seems to be a lot of people following us. Do you see that, sister? Yi Yan hurriedly pulled his sister's hand as if he had discovered a new continent. Dong Huangli naturally saw it. Sister, let's go and have a look. Maybe it's something good. We can give it to mom and dad, and they will be happy. Once they are happy, they won't blame us for returning late. Yan is so smart, quickly let big sister give you a kiss. After speaking, Dong Huangli smacked her lips onto Yi Yan's face, causing Yi Yan to be extremely happy. Big sister, quickly bring Yan and fly away, we are going to be gone soon. Okay, Yan hold on tight to big sister, yes. After finished speaking, the two siblings disappeared from where they were, and their speed was so fast that it made people speechless. The people that were observing the two siblings rubbed their eyes. How did they suddenly disappear? Where did they go? Of course, it appeared next to white light. Wow, is this a treasure? Yi Yan looked at the shining jade flute at the side and said. Take it. We're going to find something else. Alright, Yi Yan's small hand grabbed onto the jade flute, and the white light disappeared. The people following behind were dumbfounded. Why did they suddenly disappear? Some even rubbed their eyes. However, a lot of people chased after the other ray of white light. However, just when they chased after the other ray of white light, the ray of white light disappeared as well. Everyone had stupefied expressions on their faces once again, and they didn't know what to do. Just what is going on? It disappeared just like that. Seeing the last ray of white light, everyone rushed over without any regard for their lives. Then, gone again. A few thousand people could be seen standing in the sky, looking left and right, and then, holy shit. You're from the Justice Alliance. Holy shit. They're from your Peace Association. A fight broke out at the slightest disagreement. Colorful rays of light shone in the air. It was very lively. In the small forest below, the two little fellows were looking at the treasures they had picked up. Sister, it's broken. It's definitely not something good. Yi Yan was very disappointed. After all, it turned out to be a broken one. He wanted to bring it back for his parents to be happy. Yan, don't be disappointed. Watch me. Dong Huangli could be seen neatly arranging the 3 sections of the jade flute, then condensed a strand of spiritual energy onto her small hand, then started moving the jade flute. Wow, big sister, it's starting to close up. Yi Yan clapped his hands excitedly. Big sister is still the best. Yan can only look up to big sister. The 3 pieces of the jade flute closed with a loud bang, emitting an enormous pressure and green light. The people fighting above immediately stopped and looked at the small forest below. Yi Yan held the jade flute in his hand and looked at it curiously. He even knocked on the tree. Sister, this is a small green stick, it's not very useful. Yan, this is for you to brag about. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. Little brother is so cute, so cute. Just as Yi Yan was about to blow, banging sounds came from the surroundings. Countless figures descended from the sky with all kinds of weapons in their hands, staring at the siblings like tigers watching their prey. The jade flute in that little fellow's hand was actually a legendary primordial godly item. It had to be those 3 streaks of white light, but why did they fall into the hands of these 2 children? Chen Xuanzong also saw Dong Huangli. Why does she look so familiar? Where have I seen her before? Back then, during the martial arts competition, Dong Huangli appeared on the stage, just that right now, Dong Huangli's face was very dirty, making it impossible to see her original appearance. However, Qin Xuanzong wasn't interested in the primordial godly item, he just wanted to see what would happen. Xian Ba, who was in the group, was also incomparably shocked. How did the primordial godly item fall into the hands of these two children? Should I snatch it over? However, snatching something that belongs to children seems a bit inappropriate. Yi Yan asked his big sister curiously, I haven't even played the flute, why did so many people come? They are all bad people. Dong Huangli began teaching her little brother on behalf of her father. Oh, so they are the bad people that Daddy and Mommy talked about, Yan understands. Yi Yan nodded his head. So bad people all look like this, how am I supposed to differentiate them? Xian Ba could be seen walking out from the group with a smile on his face, little friend, we are not bad people. If only bad people would say that they are not bad people, they are trying to deceive little children. Yi Yan pouted his small mouth and said angrily. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, looked at everyone vigilantly, prepared to protect her little brother at any moment. However, in the eyes of these people, Dong Huangli felt that Dong Huangli was very cute and very brave. Xian Ba, is this how your peace association bullies little children? A person could be seen standing out from the group of Justice and Justice Alliance and shouted out while pointing at Xian Ba. However, his footsteps were slowly approaching the siblings. When Qin Xuanzong saw this person, his brows wrinkled. Xian Ba's expression became tense as he shouted out, be careful. The burly man leaped up and pounced towards Yi Yan. Yi Yan was greatly shocked. Picking up the jade flute in his hand, he took a deep breath, then aimed at the jade flute and fiercely blew on it. Woo! A sound wave spread out from the jade flute, and the pressure that came from the primordial godly item immediately engulfed the surroundings. A shockwave spread out with Yi Yan as the center. The robust man who was the closest to the jade flute didn't have the slightest bit of defense, and his entire body was frozen in the air. The sound wave caused the air to distort, and blood immediately flowed out from the robust man's 5 sense organs. After twitching for a few times, the robust man fell onto the ground. Not only the robust man, everyone else was the same as well. They were completely unable to withstand the attack of the primordial godly item, and all of their eardrums were ruptured, causing blood to flow out from their mouths. Right now, Yi Yan was still young, and he didn't know how to use his spiritual energy. If he were to use his spiritual energy to strengthen himself, the effect would most likely be even better. Perhaps, from that attack just now, out of the thousands of people, only a few tens of people would be left alive. Yi Yan placed down the jade flute in his hand, then looked at the robust man in front of him and asked curiously, Big sister, what happened to him? He fell asleep. Dong Huangli explained a little. Right now, her little brother is still young, I can't let him know about this. Is that so? Uncle sure loves to sleep. Yi Yan pursed his lips, seemingly intending to practice the jade flute again. This action of his gave everyone a fright. If he were to blow a few more times, I'm afraid that all of us will die. Little friend, if there's anything you want to say, we can talk it out, don't blow the flute. That's right, children shouldn't blow the flute. And, furthermore, it's already very late now, it wouldn't be good if we were to disturb other people's sleep. Everyone began persuading Yi Yan one after another. So, this is what an primordial godly item is capable of. When it falls into the hands of an ordinary child, it already possesses such might. If I were to obtain it myself, wouldn't I be able to soar into the sky? Hearing that, Yi Yan felt that what Dong Huangli said was reasonable as he said earnestly, we shouldn't disturb other people's sleep. Everyone immediately felt relieved. This little fellow is actually able to blow the flute. However, it's fine if I blow the flute in a lower volume, that way, I won't disturb other people. Chapter 587. Yi Yan frowned and said in a childish voice, Do you think I'm not good at blowing? When everyone heard this, they immediately panicked. This was simply a little ancestor. No. Little friend, You boasted so well that uncle was mesmerized by it. That's right, that's right. It's the sound of nature. That's right, I'll fight with whoever dares to say anything bad about it. Yi Yan's face blossomed into a smile after hearing that. It turned out that she was still very smart. Alright, then I'll brag for you again. Everyone wanted to die. Why were the children nowadays like this? They were really hard to coax. Little friend, you should save such a beautiful piece of music for an important moment. That's right. The environment here is so bad. It's simply a waste. We must arrange a big theater for you to perform well. When the time comes, you will be famous all over the world. Yi Yan felt that it made sense. After all, he was his father's son. How could he lose his father's face? Sister, they said Yan boasted very well. Yi Yan was a little proud. After all, he was still a child and liked to hear others praise him. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's head. Of course, Yan is very talented. Is that so? Yi Yan looked at the jade flute in his hand and seemed to like it. However, Dong Huangli didn't expect that because of this incident, her younger brother would become the Shao deity in the future. The catchphrase was awesome. Believe it or not, I will blow you to death. Xianba really wanted the jade flute in Yi Yan's hands, but at the same time, he didn't want to hurt the children. They looked so innocent. In the end, this was Xinba's personal opinion, and it did not represent the opinion of others. This was an ancient godly item, and everyone wanted to possess it. Little friend, uncle also has a flute here. How about we exchange? Uncle has one here too. It's prettier than his. Look, it's even glowing in different colors. Little friend, uncle has a lollipop here. How about I exchange it with you? Yi Yan took a look at the things that the bad uncles were holding onto and pouted her small mouth. I am not a child, unless it is 2 lollipops, I am not exchanging with you. 2 lollipops, but there was only 1. What should he do? Uncle will buy it from you later, okay? Yi Yan raised his chin. Not good. The little guy was quite stubborn, he actually didn't want to trade. The uncle couldn't take it anymore and shouted at the crowd, buy a lollipop at a high price. I'll use a spirit artifact to exchange for it. Not to mention, there really was a man who had it. Oi, I will use my spirit equipment to exchange for your lollipop. The male shouted out in a low voice. Exchanging a spirit equipment for an ancient godly item, what a good deal. The uncle's face darkened. Brother, you're too unkind. How is it unkind? Why don't we have a competition, and whoever wins gets it? Let's compete then. Do you think I'm scared of you? As the two of them spoke, they walked to the side and began a life-and-death battle for the lollipops on each other's bodies. There were also some people who wanted to wait for both sides to be injured so that they could rob them. Target. 2 lollipops. Looks like I'll have to carry more lollipops with me in the future. It's a necessary medicine to coax children. The people from the Peace Association began discussing about how to snatch Dong Huangli over. As long as we capture Dong Huangli, that child will definitely listen to us. Xianba fell into deep thought. In the end, he compromised on the condition that the child was not hurt. The people from the Peace Association shook their heads. In this dog-eat-dog world, there was no need for kindness. Otherwise, they would just be waiting to be butchered. However, Xianba was still a big boss, so everyone still had to listen to him. In actuality, Dong Huangli really wanted to learn from her father. Thinking back to the time when they were in Heaven's Palace, her father's domineering aura was truly unparalleled. However, he couldn't learn it at all. He didn't even know how to start. It was really frustrating. Just as Dong Huangli was pondering about how to imitate her father, a rope formed from spiritual energy instantly tied Dong Huangli up. Dong Huangli's expression changed. As expected of a group of bad uncles, to actually bully a child, Dong Huangli is not someone that should be provoked. A terrifying spiritual pressure erupted from Dong Huang Li's small body, and the rope that was formed from spiritual energy was about to break apart. Not good. Everyone, let's go. This little girl is very strange. As he transferred his spiritual energy one after another, the situation became much more stable. F***CK. What are you people from the Righteous Alliance doing? Help me. When the people from the Righteous Alliance saw the spiritual pressure released by Dong Huangli, they were quite frightened. We didn't expect that this little girl would be so strong. We can only choose to cooperate with her and suppress her together. The spiritual energy released by over 1,000 people was very terrifying. Dong Huangli's small face became a bit sinister. These are all bad people. Yi Yan was so frightened that he started crying. Only now did he come back to his senses. Big sister, are you alright? Yan, don't cry, big sister is fine. Woo, big sister looks to be in so much pain. Yan, wants to save big sister. Hearing what Yi Yan said, one of the people from the Peace Alliance shouted out, little friend, hand over the jade flute in your hand, and we will let your big sister go. That's right, hand it over, and we will let your big sister go. Without even thinking, Yi Yan threw away the jade flute that was in his hand. No matter how much I like it, it is not as important as my big sister. The jade flute drew a beautiful arc in the air. The gazes of over 1,000 people looked at the trajectory of the jade flute and immediately chased after it. At this moment, Dong Huangli also broke free from the restraint that was binding her. Big sister, I'm sorry, Yan, is useless. Yi Yan immediately threw himself into his big sister's embrace and cried bitterly. I feel that I am so weak. Just now, big sister was bullied by others, and I could only watch on. Hearing that, Dong Huangli's heart ached. Be good. Yan, don't cry. Yan, is still young. In the future, when Yan, grows up, I will be able to protect big sister. Yi Yan was immersed in endless self-blame. Not only did he not calm down, his crying became even louder. Daddy, mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy, mommy. Yi Yan could be seen shouting towards the sky, shaking the entire world. Even the people who were fighting over the ancient godly item at the side were startled. This little fellow is actually scared to the point of directly shouting daddy and mommy. I am truly speechless. Even if your daddy and mommy came, it would still be useless. Perhaps it was because the commotion caused by the ancient godly item was rather big. A lot of people were rushing over towards the ancient godly item. Seeing this scene, Xianba shook his head. These people have all gone mad. For the sake of the ancient godly item, they are even killing each other. I have to go back and report the situation. Qin Xuanzong didn't join in the fight and just watched on coldly from the side. Meanwhile, Yi Yan's crying sound didn't stop at all. Yi Hua and Qingya, who were far away in Leisure Bar, felt their hearts sinking, and an overflowing killing intent immediately gushed out. Yan, is actually asking me for help. Thank you, brothers, for the various tickets that you gave me. Chapter 588. Yi Hua and his two wives instantly arrived at the scene. Seeing Yan, crying in Ali's arms, the parents' hearts were about to break. Mom. Sensing that his mother had arrived, Yi Yan immediately ran over. Qingya hugged her son into her embrace, and her beautiful eyes were already red. Looking at her son's dirty little face, Qingya felt extremely heartache. Yan, be good, mother is here. Yan, is so useless, unable to protect big sister. Big sister was bullied by bad uncle. Yi Yan cried out bitterly. Dong Huang Baiji carried her daughter into her embrace and wiped off the dust on her daughter's face. Ali, are you injured anywhere? Hearing her mother's gentle and caring voice, Dong Huangli also started crying loudly. Woo. Ali is so useless, I can't even protect my little brother. The big sister blamed herself for not protecting the little brother properly, and the little brother blamed himself for not protecting the big sister properly. These two little fellows are really. Yi Hua was furious. His son and daughter were bullied. As a father, how could he let this go? Do you think that ants like you can bully the child of my supreme sovereign? Daddy, I'm sorry. Dong Huangli looked at her father and said while crying. Yi Yan also shouted out, Daddy, Yan has disappointed you. Yi Hua rubbed onto the heads of the two little fellows and said gravely, both of you are good children, it is this world that is too sinister. Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji coldly looked at the thousands of people who were fighting not far away from them. They wished that they could kill every single one of them. Qin Xuanzong's expression stiffened. That girl is actually the Empress's child, and the boy is actually Qin Ye's child. And that Long Out Yen. Damn you, Long Out Yen. Today, I, the Devil Emperor Qin Xuanzong, shall expose your ugly face. Yi Hua looked towards the thousands of people who were fighting over there and stretched out his palm. The jade flute could be seen flying out from one of the people's hands, and Yi Hua held it firmly in his hand. The 1,000-man team battle stopped in an instant. Yi Hua and the two women who were not far away from him. It seemed that the parents of the two children had come. Thousands of people landed on the ground, and these people who had already killed to the point that their brains were burning with passion looked at Yi Hua and shouted out, hand over the jade flute, if not, we will kill your entire family. Kill his entire family. Yi Hua's face sunk, it has always been the main overlord who gets exterminated. Do you ants even have the right to say such words? Ha! Where did this pretty boy come from? His tone isn't small at all, wanting to kill me. You'll have to ask the blade in my hand. Yi Hua lightly clenched his fist. Kacha! The jade flute was broken and fell to the ground. A berserk aura spread out, and a blood blade appeared in Yi Hua's hand. Today, I shall be merciful. I bestow death upon you. Right after Yi Hua finished speaking, Yi Hua's figure disappeared from his original spot. Qin Ye covered her son's eyes, and Dong Huang Baiji did the same as well. However, the two of them were very much in agreement with their husband's actions. Even if their husband didn't do it, they would have done it. Yi Hua was like a wolf that had entered into a flock of sheep. The crowd immediately let out wails, and they didn't even have the time to react before they were killed by Yi Hua. In less than half a minute, all of the 1,000 people in the group had fallen into a pool of blood. In actuality, Yi Hua could insta-kill all of them, but that wouldn't be enough. Only by imprisoning their souls in hell for all eternity would he be able to get rid of his anger. The blood blade in his hand had such an ability. Holding onto his blood blade, Yi Hua stood in the middle of the crowd like a god of slaughter, extremely terrifying. If it was in the past, Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji wouldn't be able to get used to it. However, right now, they felt extremely comfortable, as if Yi Hua had done something great. Keeping the blood blade, Yi Hua slowly walked towards his wife and son. This matter won't end just like this. Just wait for the Supreme Overlord's anger. Long Out Yen. A voice suddenly rang out, causing the family of 5 to stop their footsteps. Yi Hua naturally knew that it was Qin Xuanzong. Just now, he didn't kill Qin Xuanzong because he was curious about what Qin Xuanzong was planning to do. Qin Ye also saw Qin Xuanzong walking over, and she said doubtfully, Qin Xuanzong. Qin Ye, I am going to tell you a secret today. Qin Xuanzong felt great in his heart. I am going to expose this despicable and shameless Long Out Yen soon. He actually disguised himself as someone else, he is truly hateful. Qin Xuanzong. Just what are you planning to do? Qin Ye shouted out. Why are you still so stubborn? Those are all things that happened when you were young. Qin Xuanzong laughed loudly and said crazily, Qin Ye, you still don't know, right? This Yi Hua is Long Out Yen's disguise. Don't be fooled by him again. Also, Empress, you have also been fooled by him. Long Out Yen, what else do you have to say? You liar. Qin Xuanzong pointed at Yi Hua and shouted out coldly. This is truly satisfying. Finally, today has come. Qin Ye, don't be stubborn anymore. This demon emperor is your best choice. Even if you have a child now, this demon emperor wouldn't mind at all. I will treat the child as my own child. Yi Hua thought back to that long out yen from the very beginning. If it wasn't for Qin Xuanzong mentioning it, I would have probably forgotten about it. Qin Xuanzong, have you gone mad? What long out yen? Qingye felt that Qin Xuanzong had really gone mad. He actually thought that Yi Hua was long out yen. Dong Huang Baizhi said faintly, Qin Xuanzong, seeing that you are a northerner in the past, if you leave now, I will spare your life. Qin Xuanzong was puzzled. Just what did this long out yen do to make them so loyal to him? They actually don't believe in me. Look carefully, he is long out yen. Yi Hua thought that Qin Xuanzong was going to do something big. He actually mistook me as long out yen. Just what is this person thinking? Qingye was also very angry. She shouted out coldly, Qin Xuanzong, if you continue like this, don't blame me for disregarding our past friendship. Qingye was also afraid that Yi Hua would misunderstand something. After all, this fellow's jealousy is not ordinary. Qingye. Why don't you believe me? I love you. This long out yen is just lying to you. Qin Xuanzong couldn't suppress his feelings anymore and expressed his love. Enough. Qin Xuanzong, from today onwards, I have nothing to do with you. Qingye's face turned red from anger. To actually say such words in front of my own husband and son, I have lost all my face. Hearing that, Qin Xuanzong's face turned pale and he couldn't help but take a step back. Yi Hua was very displeased. To actually confess to my own wife in front of me, do you think that I am transparent? Qin Xuanzong, my wife is indeed outstanding, but only an outstanding man like me can have her. As for you, you are merely an ant under the common people, you don't even have the qualifications to kneel and lick my feet. Qin Xuanzong's face suddenly turned sinister, long out yen. You still like to act cool, it's hard to change a person's nature. Today, I will make you reveal your true colors. Yi Hua laughed, then asked gravely, what do you want to do? Long out yen. I, Qin Xuanzong, want to challenge you to a duel. 6 shadow moons appeared in Qin Xuanzong's hand, and the 6 shadow moons were pointed towards Yi Hua. I will fulfill your wish. Chapter 589. Yi Hua had long wanted to get rid of this Qin Xuanzong. He actually has a crush on my wife. Now that the opportunity is here, Qingye won't say anything even if I get rid of this Qin Xuanzong. Even if she wants to say anything, I will just go crazy. Don't you know that I am the jealous king of the cultivation world? Qingye stood at the side and didn't say anything. If I say it now, Yi Hua will still think that I have something going on with Qin Xuanzong. This isn't a good thing. For the sake of family harmony, Qingye won't say anything. Qingye had already done her best to persuade this childhood friend of hers. Yet, he still insisted on doing things his own way. He even said that Yi Hua is long out yen. They are clearly two different people. It's not like long out yen hasn't seen them before. Dong Huang Baizhi didn't care about Qin Xuanzong's life at all. If he didn't choose to support her back then, he wouldn't have said those words just now. Qingye and Dong Huang Baizhi carried their children and sat at the side, waiting for the result. Yi Hua was very satisfied with Qingye's actions. As expected of my supreme overlord's woman. At crucial times, she is still thinking from my perspective. My love for her is not in vain. Take out your weapon. I, Qin Xuanzong, don't kill unarmed people. Qin Xuanzong, who was holding on to 6 shadow moons, looked quite handsome. Just that, he fell in love with a woman that he shouldn't love. Yi Hua took out a cigarette and lit it up, then took a deep breath and said faintly, you overestimate yourself. Do I need a weapon to kill you? A cigarette is enough. Long out yen. Who asked you to act cool? Today, I, Qin Xuanzong, am going to kill you. Qin Xuanzong shook his hands, and the 6 shadow moons in his hands immediately flew towards Yi Hua. As expected of an ancient divine artifact. Yi Hua's lips curled up slightly. He held onto the cigarette and stabbed towards the spear that was emitting a bright light. Clang! A metallic sound rang out. The cigarette butt and the spear collided and emitted a terrifying aura. Qin Xuanzong looked at the scene in front of him dumbfoundedly. This Long Out Yin actually used a cigarette butt to block my ancient divine artifact. How is this possible? I have already said. I don't need a weapon to kill you. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette ash, then took a deep breath and breathed out a green smoke. Qin Xuanzong didn't dare to be careless. With a leap, he pulled apart the distance between them. However, a voice came from behind, "What's wrong? Are you distancing yourself because you're afraid?" A smell of smoke entered Qin Xuanzong's nose. Qin Xuanzong's face turned pale with fright. Although it was just a simple contact, he already knew the gap between them. Long Out Yin was so strong that he could use a cigarette butt to block the attack, and his speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. It seemed that he had to use his ultimate move to have a chance of winning. Four-way Empyrean Net. Qin Xuanzong yelled and stabbed the 6 moon-shaped shadows into the ground. A terrifying aura immediately filled the air, and the huge pressure caused the sky to change color. A deafening sound of thunder resounded between the heavens and the earth, as if it was the end of the world. A ferocious spiritual pressure shot out from the spearhead and into the skies. In an instant, rays of light shot out for tens of thousands of feet, and the clouds began to spin like a vortex. A huge spearhead pierced through the clouds, bringing with it the might of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world had stopped moving. Ha! Long Out Yin. Just wait for your death. You can't escape from my four-sided sky net. Qin Xuanzong laughed wildly, as if he could already see the scene of Yi Hua being stabbed to death, and then, he would be able to hug the beauty. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. This ignorant human doesn't understand my strength at all, and yet, he dares to speak such arrogant words here. Foolish. The huge spear in the sky was golden in color, and it slowly descended with surging killing intent. The entire ground was suppressed by the spiritual pressure, and all of the towering trees were crushed. The corpses in the surroundings actually turned into blood and merged with the ground. This is simply too powerful. From a visual point of view, this scene is comparable to a sci-fi blockbuster. The speed at which the huge spear descended became faster and faster, and the ground collapsed along with it. Yi Hua casually took a puff of his cigarette, then exhaled it towards the huge spear. In an instant, the huge spear that was insufferably arrogant just a moment ago dissipated like a bubble, as if it had never appeared in the first place. The world returned to normal. Yi Hua blew away my four-sided sky net in a single breath. Qin Xuanzong's eyeballs were about to pop out. This must be fake, right? Qin Xuanzong, compared to me, you are still a bit lacking. While speaking, Yi Hua even used his finger to gesture. Although it was just a simple gesture, the difference between them contained the sky net. This is impossible. Qin Xuanzong shouted out, and the 6 shadow moons in his hand attacked towards Yi Hua once again. Yi Hua once again took out the cigarette, but that was about to be completely smoked and slowly blocked it. Then, he said, Qingye is mine for her entire life, and only I am able to enjoy her body. As for you, you don't even have the qualifications to dream about it. Qingye naturally heard Yi Hua's words, and she rolled her eyes at her husband. Men just love to use such things to show off their abilities. Qin Xuanzong was stimulated, and his hand's speed became even faster. The afterimages of the spear were like afterimages, and the cigarette butt in Yi Hua's hand was the same as well. Bang! Yi Hua suddenly grabbed onto the tip of the spear, then raised his leg and kicked Qin Xuanzong. Qin Xuanzong's entire body was sent flying. This was simply a one-sided battle. Yi Hua only gave Qin Xuanzong enough time to smoke a single cigarette. Now that the cigarette was finished, this Qin Xuanzong should die. Yi Hua held on to Qin Xuanzong's weapon and slowly walked towards Qin Xuanzong. As for Qin Xuanzong, he was actually half crippled by Yi Hua's kick. All of his internal organs were displaced, and even his spiritual energy was scattered by the kick. Qin Xuanzong, who was lying on the ground, couldn't move at all. I didn't expect that I wouldn't even be able to withstand a single kick from my opponent. When did this Long Out Yen become so powerful? Yi Hua turned his head and looked towards Qingye, who was at the side, then persuaded her softly, "Qingye, you know me. I have liked you since I was young, and even now, my feelings for you have never changed. Everything I do is for us to have a good future together." Qingye carried her son and slowly turned around. She didn't want to see this scene. When Qin Xuanzong saw that Qingye's back was facing him, he laughed lightly. "I didn't expect that even after I transmigrated to this world, I still couldn't obtain Qingye's heart. The heavens are so unfair." Yi Hua lowered his head and looked towards Qin Xuanzong, then said faintly, "Qin Xuanzong, if you have a next life, remember this. My woman isn't someone you can think about." I, Qin Xuanzong, won't beat around the bush. I just like your wife." This sentence indeed angered Yi Hua. And when Qin Xuanzong saw Yi Hua's expression changing, he laughed out loud, "In this fucking life, my next life, and the life after that, I will always like your wife." Yi Hua's face turned gloomy, and the 6 shadow moons in his hand pierced towards Qin Xuanzong's heart. Chapter 590. Qingye. Remember me. There is still a man who loves you in this world. Qin Xuanzong shouted out, and after he finished speaking, his face turned pale. Yi Hua tightly held onto the 6 shadow moons in his hand and said softly, "Remember. My name is Yi Hua. Not Long Out Yen." The 6 shadow moons began to crack, and cracks instantly appeared on the spear. Boom! As the 6 shadow moons exploded, Qin Xuanzong's body dissipated as well, and even his primordial spirit disappeared completely. Actually, Qin Xuanzong was similar to Xiao Yi. He was a stubborn person. Xiao Yi's stubbornness came from his strength and authority, while Qin Xuanzong's stubbornness came from his love for Qingye. If he was slightly more flexible, such a thing wouldn't have happened, and the two of them might still be alive. However, the reality was like that. Especially for Qin Xuanzong, even if he were to die, he still spoke out his thoughts without any hesitation. Yi Hua's face turned gloomy, and he felt extremely unhappy. Especially that last sentence of Qin Xuanzong's, "He didn't put me in his eyes at all, and he even aggressively confessed to my wife. F***K. I'm in a bad mood." Yi Hua immediately disappeared from where he was standing. Seeing that their husband disappeared, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi knew that Yi Hua was unhappy. "Qingye, hand Yen to me, I will go and coax him." Donghuang Baizhi laughed bitterly. Sometimes, when Yi Hua is angry, he is just like a child. If you don't coax him, he will still lose his temper. Qingye let out a deep sigh, then handed her son to Donghuang Baizhi, then disappeared. Donghuang Baizhi carried the 2 little fellows back to Voidless Realm first. Tonight is truly not a good night. Yi Hua returned to the office in Leisure Bar, turned on the TV, and played Calabash Brothers Save Grandpa to adjust his state of mind. Just now, I nearly exploded from anger because of that Qin Xuanzong. Not long later, Qingye walked into the office. Yi Hua took a glance at her, then continued to watch the TV. Qingye slowly sat beside Yi Hua and lightly leaned against him. The two of them did not say anything and quietly watched the TV. Yi Hua's gloominess also dissipated quite a bit. Qingye is my woman, and she will appear in public, so it is normal for her to be liked by others. In actuality, what Yi Hua was angry about was that Qin Xuanzong and Qingye were childhood friends. If Qin Xuanzong was just an ordinary admirer, Yi Hua wouldn't be so angry. An hour later, Qingye said tenderly, "It's getting late, let's go and sleep." Yi Hua knew that Qingye was trying to give him a way out of this embarrassing situation. Thus, he did not continue to make things difficult for Qingye. Carrying Qingye up, he walked towards the bedroom. "I am going to fiercely possess her tonight. Qingye is my woman, and no one can even think of touching her. Qingya, who was being carried in Yifutian's embrace, had a helpless expression on her face. Who asked me to get involved in this? As for Qin Xuanzong, I have already tried my best. Originally, it was just a test of the waters, but it ended up like this. No one could have expected it. Xian Ba could be considered lucky. If he did not leave, he would probably die here. His luck was not bad. However, with such a large number of casualties, the Righteous Alliance and the Peace Association would definitely know about it. As for the murderer, it was unlikely that they would be able to find him, because there were no witnesses. On the other hand, there was a Xian Ba. Could it be that 2 kids had defeated a 1,000-man team? Who would believe that? Within the Righteous Alliance, Qing Tiandi was eating egg tarts. Suddenly, he paused and said, "Sai, Qin Xuanzong is dead." Ah! Wang Debao was currently eating roasted pig trotters. The taste is pretty good. Sai, we have lost another great general. Qing Tiandi swallowed down the egg tarts and said regretfully. However, his gaze did not change in the slightest. Feng Tiandi, who was at the side, said faintly, "Although this Qin Xuanzong is a bit weak, if we want to kill him, we still need an expert." Could it be that a reincarnator has appeared? Bai Cixin asked. Qing Tiandi shook his head. "The reincarnator hasn't appeared yet, but I can sense that the reincarnator that is going to be reincarnated next should be a very powerful existence." When everyone heard this news, their expressions immediately became serious. Because this powerful existence was shouted out by Qing Tiandi, it could be seen how terrifying that existence was. "Brother Qing, how powerful is that existence?" Wang Debao asked gravely. "Ha, I was just joking and you actually took it seriously. Come on, lighten up the atmosphere, don't be so serious." Qing Tiandi laughed, then picked up the egg tarts that were on the table and began eating. Everyone was speechless. Is there any meaning in doing this? Feng Tiandi snorted coldly, then went upstairs to rest. Wang Debao continued to grab onto the pig trotter and eat it. When Bai Cixin saw her husband's oily mouth, she couldn't help but say, "Sleep on the sofa tonight." Wang Debao looked at his wife, who went upstairs to rest, then looked at Qing Tiandi and let out a long sigh. "I can finally rest for a night. Just nice, we can attack Shabak tonight." Qing Tiandi laughed. Seems like he is a bit addicted to the game. Wang Debao spat out a piece of bone. "No problem, I have already bought the equipment, I can totally start a massacre now. Let's go online first. Tonight, I will be the boss of Shabak City." Ha! Qin Xuanzong's death didn't bring any sadness to the team. Everyone was the same as usual, not serious at all. Meanwhile, in the Peace Association's headquarters, Xian Ba was reporting his work. "President, should we go and kill more people?" The man who was standing in front of the French window could be seen turning his head around. If Yi Hua saw this, he would definitely say, "Little Ninth, you are here." That's right, the president of the Peace Association is Jiu Yi. There's no need to go, he is not a good person. Jiu Yi held onto his walking stick and looked at the night sky outside. "I finally have strength. This is simply great." Xian Ba lowered his head and responded. "If there is nothing else, then go back and rest." "All right, President." After Xian Ba left, Jiu Yi poured himself a glass of wine and lightly shook the glass. Then, the 8848T phone in his pocket rang. There was a message on WeChat. "They are all dead. Spread the news that it was done by Voidless Realm." Looking at the message from one of the masters, Jiu Yi immediately replied. "If not for the help of these masters, I wouldn't have been able to establish the Peace Association in such a short period of time." Little Jiu, suddenly, a voice caused Jiu Ye's entire body to tremble. A figure could be seen sitting on a chair not far away from him. "Master!" Jiu Yi kneeled down without even thinking. The figure stood up, then slowly walked over and revealed his face. It was actually Qing Tiandi. Using the excuse of going to the toilet, Qing Tiandi came over. Little Jiu, you have done well during this period of time. In the future, this peace association will be even more useful. I will listen to master's arrangements. This is your reward, do your job well. After throwing a storage bag to Jiu Yi, Qing Tiandi disappeared from the room. Jiu Yi let out a breath. These masters of mine sure are generous, to be able to reward me with a storage bag. Jiu Yi opened the storage bag, and within the storage bag, there were 3 to 4 ancient godly items and all kinds of medicinal pellets. Good fellow. Chapter 591. Facts have proven that there is a way out if you follow the right person. However, Ninth Master, are you sure that you are following the right person? The next morning, Yihua slowly opened his eyes and lowered his head to look at Qingye, who was currently sleeping soundly in his embrace. Luckily, I am not drooling. Thinking back to the time when I was together with Qingye, I felt that it was rather interesting. She was always so noisy, and it made me very annoyed. However, everything is fine now. This silly woman has become much more obedient and knows how to serve me. Qingye let out a low moan. She is already a mother, yet she is still acting like a little girl. Yihua patted onto Qingye's butt. Wake up, you are still sleeping. Don't move, let me sleep for the last 5 minutes. Qingye said tenderly, then chose a comfortable position and continued sleeping. Yihua lightly caressed Qingye's beautiful hair. I didn't make the wrong choice for these 2 women, my eyesight is rather sharp. 5 minutes is up. Yihua. Can't you just let me sleep for a bit longer? You slept until 4 a.m. yesterday. I am tired. Qingye was unwilling and didn't want to move at all. Didn't you keep saying that you want it? My waist is still sore. I said that I don't want it. You are twisting my words. Qingye opened her beautiful eyes and pinched onto Yihua's face. Yihua pressed onto Qingye's hands and laughed lightly, but your expression is very comfortable. Go and die. I am not talking to you anymore. Qingye's face turned red from being teased by Yihua. Although they were already an old couple, when talking about this kind of in-depth topic, Qingye was still like a little girl, and her face would easily turn red. Right in front of Yihua, Qingye stood up, and that beautiful and lovely body of hers was exposed to the air. Yihua leaned against the head of the bed and admired her body. Qingye is truly beautiful, every single piece of her skin is so exquisite, so perfect. Why didn't I realize that women have such charm in the past? I have truly wasted my life. After Qingye finished dressing up, she blew a kiss to Yihua. I am going to Voidless Realm to feed the child, are you coming over for lunch? And, I will come over after I take a look at Zhu Tian. Yihua nodded his head. Alright. After Qingye disappeared, Yihua got up from the bed. After washing up, he went to Qing Yutong's room. During these few days, Qing Yutong had been staying at Voidless Realm and abandoned Yizizi. However, Yizizi didn't go to school anymore, because Yihua had already achieved his goal, and there was no longer any use for Yizizi to go to school anymore. Your Honor, why did you come over? Yizizi had also woken up early in the morning. Zhu Tian was currently lying in her bosom, while Yizizi was playing games. How is absolute heaven? Yihua asked faintly, while grabbing onto the back of Zhu Tian's neck. Yihua lifted Zhu Tian up and observed him. Zhu Tian seemed to have recovered quite well, it's good that he didn't die. Yizizi pouted. It might take a long time for him to fully recover. That old woman is too ruthless. This was not because Brett was ruthless. Back then, he had wanted to die together with absolute heaven. He never thought that things would turn out like this. You can continue to hug Zhu Tian. Yihua tossed Zhu Tian back into Yizizi's embrace. Yizizi's blood and qi were able to help Zhu Tian recover. Your Honor, when are you going to give me a mission? I am very bored right now. Yizizi begged bitterly. This is so boring, when is this mission going to end? Yi Hua could also tell that Yi Zizi was bored. Don't let Yi Zizi get sick from being bored. Alright, I will consider it. Haha, thank you, Your Honor. Yi Hua let out a light sigh, then prepared to go and see how Brett was doing. After arriving at Zhu Tian's residence, Yi Hua walked onto the wooden bridge. Brett was still rather obedient, and he stayed inside the residence. Yi Hua wondered if the three women would start fighting. After walking into the living room, Yi Hua saw that the three women were sitting there, and the atmosphere was a bit heavy. However, Brett's expression wasn't that cold. On the other hand, Dongfang Yuan, and Guan Yenxin's expressions were cold. When the three women saw Yi Hua walking into the living room, they stood up and kneeled down. Greetings, Your Honor. You can get up. Yi Hua said faintly. Thank you, Your Honor. Yi Hua took a breath, then asked, Is Zhu Tian fine? Hearing what His Honor said, the three women immediately let out a breath of relief. As long as Zhu Tian is fine, everything else isn't important. Brett, I'm afraid that it won't be peaceful in the near future. Since Zhu Tian isn't here, you will take his place and guard this place. Subordinate understands. Brett answered respectfully. Yi Hua nodded his head. The three of you, get along well with each other. Since you have already caused a ruckus here and there, you should continue living your lives. Yes. Facing the words of a supreme overlord, the three women didn't dare to disobey. I will be leaving now. Goodbye, Your Honor. Yi Hua disappeared from the living room and returned to the living room to take a look at the two little fellows. Seeing that His Honor had left, the atmosphere became unnatural again. Brett didn't know how to talk to the three women, and Dongfang Yuan, and Guan Yenxin didn't want to talk to Brett either. After all, this Brett almost killed Zhu Tian. He was too vicious. Right after returning to Voidless Realm, before even entering the door, Yi Hua could hear Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi scolding Yi Hua. Yi Hua walked into the living room and saw that the two little fellows had completely changed. The two little fellows were obediently standing in front of their mother with their heads lowered, not saying a word. When Donghuang Li and Yi Yan saw that their father had arrived, they saw their savior. Daddy, Daddy, the two little fellows ran into Yi Hua's embrace, while Yi Hua held on to one of them with each of his hands. To be like this so early in the morning, are you even going to let my children live? Yi Hua was currently standing on the side of the children, acting as their strong backing. Donghuang Baizhi snorted, then took out her phone. Yi Hua, take a look at what they are doing. Donghuang Baizhi opened up her TikTok and found a video. A familiar voice could be heard ringing out from the phone. We are so pitiful, we have no parents since we were young, and we are all alone. My little brother is going to starve to death soon, we are so miserable. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. He placed the two little fellows down, then picked up his phone and looked at the video. Just like yesterday, Ali and Yen were actually begging at the entrance of KFC. When the two little fellows saw that their father's expression had changed a bit, they immediately felt that the situation was bad. Their strong backing feels like he is going to jump ship. Donghuang Li pulled onto her little brother and ran out of the living room. Yi Hua waved his hand, and the two little fellows were frozen in place. To actually say that I have no parents. How audacious. The two of you, come over here. Yi Hua shouted out coldly. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were frightened to the point that their bodies trembled. Mother is indeed a bit strict, but when father is fierce, he is very scary. This time, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi did not say anything. These two children are too mischievous, they actually learned how to lie to others. And to even come up with such a ridiculous excuse. Father, don't blame big sister, it is Yan, who is hungry. Yi Yan's big eyes immediately became filled with tears. Yi Hua said gravely, if you dare to cry, I will spank your butt until it becomes swollen. Yi Yan immediately stopped crying. Father, it is all Ali's fault, you should just punish Ali, little brother is still young, he cannot be beaten. Dong Huangli obediently stretched out her chubby little hand and prepared to receive the punishment. Chapter 592. Hearing his sister's concern, Yi Yan's big eyes were filled with tears, but he held them back, afraid that his father would flip out. Daddy, Yan, is a boy. If you want to hit someone, then hit Yan, don't hit big sister. After saying that, Yan, stretched out her white little hand. Looking at the wronged look on the little fellow's face, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi felt despair. Every time he makes a mistake, he would use this trick, cover up for each other, act cute and act pitiful, and then, an hour later, he would forget everything he said just now, and continue doing what he was supposed to do. But seeing his daughter and son taking care of each other like this, as a parent, he felt very comfortable. Yi Hua took out the feather duster and immediately hit onto Ali's hands. In actuality, the feather duster wasn't heavy at all, but it gave Ali a fright. Thus, Ali shrieked loudly, seemingly as if she was in great pain. Donghuang Baizhi couldn't sit still anymore. In actuality, most of the time, Donghuang Baizhi would just scare Yi Zichen a little. But look at Yi Hua now, he is actually so ruthless. Donghuang Baizhi hurriedly hugged onto her daughter and said coquettishly, "Ye Hua, what are you doing?" Meanwhile, Qingye was also afraid that Yi Hua would hit her son, and thus, she hugged her son into her embrace. "Put her down." Yi Hua shouted out angrily. This is simply going against the heavens. How could he not teach him a good lesson today? I, the Supreme Overlord, think that your father's face is dark. He even said that he had no parents. His lungs were about to explode from anger. Yi Hua, calm down a bit. Qingye felt that her husband wasn't joking with her, so she hurriedly persuaded her husband. Children, how can they not make mistakes? In the future, it will be fine as long as they are properly educated. Yi Hua shouted out coldly, I will say this one last time, put the two of them down. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi didn't dare to anger their husband. When the time comes, both the old and the young will be beaten up together. Commonly known as domestic violence. The two little guys were put down by their mother and stood in front of their father with their heads lowered. How dare you? Who am I to you? Yi Hua shook the feather duster in his hand and questioned. The two little fellows whispered, Daddy. You guys still know that I'm your dad. Then who is your mother? Donghuang Li and Yi Yan pointed towards their back at the same time. That pitiful look on Yi Yan's face made Donghuang Li look extremely cute. Then where did that fatherless and motherless thing come from? Do we think your parents are bad? If you think you're lacking, then scram. I don't have children like you. This is outrageous. Yi Hua gave a stern criticism. Aren't you spoiling them too much? To think that they can even say such disgraceful words. Hearing that their father told them to scram, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were both stupefied. The two little fellows couldn't care about anything else anymore, and tears immediately flowed out of their eyes. After that, the two little fellows immediately kneeled onto the ground and hugged onto their father's leg. Dad, Ali knows she's wrong. Don't chase Ali away. Ali will never say such things again. Donghuang Li hated herself for saying those words. I shouldn't have made my father so angry. Yi Yan was also crying loudly as he sobbed, Daddy, Yan, promises to be obedient in the future, Yan, don't leave Daddy and Mommy, Wu. Seeing that Yi Hua had taught his two wives a lesson, Yi Hua gave a hint to his two wives, and the two wives understood what Yi Hua was trying to say. Mom, don't pull Ali. If Dad doesn't forgive Ali, Ali won't get up. Yes, Yan, don't get up either. These two little fellows are quite stubborn. Yi Hua took a deep breath. Are we really going to chase the child away? If that's the case, wouldn't Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi go crazy? Stretch out your hands. The two little fellows stretched out their hands obediently. Yi Hua took out the feather duster and hit the two of them, if you dare to do such a thing again in the future, you don't need to go home anymore. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan hurriedly nodded their heads, promising that they won't do such a thing again in the future. The children of the Supreme Overlord are begging in front of a KFC. If such a news were to spread out, where would they be able to put their face? Brother-in-law, you're teaching the little fellows a lesson again. Qing Yutong, who was wearing a set of purple dress, walked over leisurely. Not to mention that she was a bit charming, she was not the slightest bit inferior to her big sister Qingya. Yi Hua looked at his sister-in-law. It would be a lie if he said that his heart wasn't moved. Taking into consideration Qingya's thoughts, Yi Hua didn't touch Qing Yutong. Just that, this Qing Yutong is becoming more and more alluring, causing me to be very vexed. I'm going out for a walk. Yi Hua stood up and said faintly. Are you still coming back for lunch? Qingya asked. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Not coming back, I will come back at night. After finished speaking, Yi Hua immediately left Voidless Realm. Seeing that brother-in-law had left, Qing Yutong was very puzzled. Recently, as long as I appear, brother-in-law would run away faster than anyone else. What is the meaning of this? This is really strange. Who cares about it? Qing Yutong pinched onto Yi Yan's little face. Yan, what did you do this time? You are even crying. Woo-woo. Yi Yan immediately laid on his mother's embrace and cried bitterly. Qingya patted onto her son's shoulder and said with a light smile, the two children were beaten up by your brother-in-law. Damn, he really beat them up. To think that brother-in-law would actually be able to do it. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. In the past, it was always thunder, not rain. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. This is really a headache. After the one in my stomach comes out, with the three troublemakers causing trouble at the same time, my headache is going to become big. At this moment, an imperial guard who was kneeling outside of the house shouted out, Your Majesty. Dong Huang Baiji carried her daughter and walked out of the house, then asked faintly, what happened? There was a piece of news that was spread out this morning, and the news is targeted at Voidless Realm. The Imperial Guard said gravely. In his heart, he was thinking, why are there so many people who don't care about their lives? Is Voidless Realm something that you all can provoke? Dong Huang Baiji asked puzzledly, what news? The 1,000 people that disappeared last night, they said that they were killed by people from Voidless Realm. The Imperial Guard said while trembling with fear. Oh, I understand, you can leave now. Yes. The Imperial Guard went into a daze. Could it be that it is true? Dong Huang Baiji was very puzzled. I don't think that the news was leaked out last night. How did someone find out about it? This is a bit strange. Baiji, do you want to tell Yi Hua about it? Qingya asked seriously. There is no need to tell him about such a small matter, we can handle it ourselves. Dong Huang Baiji didn't want to rely on her husband for everything and make herself seem like a flower vase. Qingya felt that what Dong Huang Baiji said was right, for some things, I can handle it myself. Qing Yutong, who is at the side, is also a good helper. Yi Hua returned to Leisure Bar and planned to go to the alleyway to buy a Chinese jianbing to eat. I wonder if she will be here today. Ever since the start of the new year, Yi Hua discovered that the auntie was a bit strange. In the past, she would set up a stall every day, but now, she would only come out 3 times a week. Sometimes, if I want to eat the auntie's Chinese jianbing, I have to try my luck. I am very annoyed. Walking down the stairs, Yi Hua saw that the blood demon was currently mopping the floor. That serious look on his face made it seem as if he was bringing disaster to the common people. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. With a plop sound, the blood demon lied down on the floor. Chapter 593. Get up. Thank you, Your Honor. Blood Demon stood at the side respectfully. He slightly lowered his head, not daring to look at Blood Demon directly. How's business recently? Blood Demon lowered his head and said, Your Honor, our business has been pretty good recently. Yihua nodded his head and touched onto the table. The table was indeed wiped clean. Not bad, continue to work hard. The blood demon was exhilarated. To actually be able to receive his honor's praise, this is even more of a sense of accomplishment than harming the common people. Thank you, Your Honor. Blood Demon shouted out loudly. Blood Demon felt that his entire body was filled with energy. I still have to clean up once more. To the extent that he could lick her. Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up, then walked out of leisure bar. Meanwhile, as Blood Demon looked at his honor's back view, a look of worship appeared in his eyes. Even his honor is so graceful when he smokes, why can't I learn it as well? I'm so stupid. After walking out of leisure bar, Yihua looked towards the entrance of the alleyway. The auntie is actually selling Chinese jianbing today. My luck is not bad. Give me a fruit jianbing, remember to add an egg. Yihua said faintly while standing at the side. The aunt turned her head around and took a look at Yihua, then squeezed out a smile and said, all right. However, when Yihua turned his head around, his smile disappeared. Yihua wrinkled his brows and waited quietly. While it's hot. The middle-aged lady wrapped up the Chinese jianbing in her hand and passed it to Yihua. Yihua took a glance at the WeChat message on the window, then turned around and left. However, after walking a few steps, Yihua turned his head around and looked towards the aunt. After letting out a light sigh, Yihua walked back. When did I, the Supreme Overlord, become such a good person? When the aunt saw that Yihua had returned, she asked curiously, what's the matter? Is it not delicious? I'll make it for you again. No need. Yihua said faintly. The auntie looked at the handsome man in front of her in confusion. So many years had passed. From the beginning to now, the auntie was the witness. Why is it intermittent this year? Yihua asked. The middle-aged woman also sighed softly. Her brows revealed a look of exhaustion and worry. The middle-aged woman chuckled. It's nothing. It's just a trivial matter. You should go back and accompany your wife and child. This auntie is even better at acting than I am. It's obvious that she has a lot on her mind. Tell me, maybe I can help you. Yihua was giving enough face to the Supreme Overlord. If a Supreme Overlord were to take the initiative to help you, then no matter how big the matter is, he would be able to help you settle it. The middle-aged woman looked grateful. Thank you, but I really don't need it. Are you looking down on me? Yihua questioned coldly. This is the first time that I, the Supreme Overlord, have taken the initiative to help someone, and yet, I was actually rejected. If news of this were to spread out, where would I put my face? Seeing how Yihua was acting, the aunt laughed. Young man, I know that you are a good person, but you really can't help me with this matter. Hee hee. Is there anything I can't do? What a joke. Speak. If I can't help you, I'll pay double the price for the pancakes in the future. Wow, the Supreme Honorable was so generous, he was actually willing to pay double the price. The middle-aged woman was speechless. This young man was stubborn. She had experienced it before. Actually, it's that son of mine. He used to work outside, but when he came back last year, he became weird. He locked himself in his room all day long. Recently, he even joined that peace association and became a manager. Say, the world is so chaotic. If something happens, what should I do? Yihua thought that it was some big matter and said indifferently, what do you want? I just want my son to live a peaceful life and not fight and kill outside, but, sigh. He hasn't returned home for a month, and when I went to look for him, The middle-aged woman seemed to be in a bad mood. She felt that her son seemed to have changed into another person. As a mother, how could she possibly hope for her son to go out and fight and kill? Furthermore, he didn't even return home right now. He went to look for his son by himself, and he wasn't even willing to come out. He only asked someone to pass a message to his son, as if his appearance was making his son lose face. This was what made the middle-aged woman's heart ache. Actually, I have a bit of experience in disciplining children, maybe I can help you. Yi Hua felt that he was confident. After all, my son has always been obedient, and I just taught him a lesson just now. But, can a child and an adult be compared? Furthermore, this is someone else's son. The middle-aged woman remained silent for a while, then compromised in the end. Young man, I will have to trouble you then. My fees are very expensive. Ah, after the matter is settled, the pancakes have to be free. The middle-aged woman went into a daze for a moment, then said straightforwardly, no problem, if you really manage to convince that son of mine, in the future, all of the pancakes that you eat will be free of charge when you come over. Yi Hua was very satisfied with the middle-aged woman's attitude. You should have had this kind of awareness long ago. Lead the way then. The middle-aged woman closed her stall early and pushed her cart towards her home. Yi Hua thought that the middle-aged woman's house shouldn't be far away, but the middle-aged woman actually walked for an hour. The Supreme Overlord actually walked for an hour. Your house is so far away, why did you come here to set up a stall in the morning? Yi Hua couldn't help but ask curiously. The middle-aged woman bit onto her lips and said in a low voice, I am used to it, if I were to move to a new house, my son would have bought it for me, just that I feel that my previous house is still better. Yi Hua understood this middle-aged woman. After living in this bar, it would be a bit hard to get used to going to other places. Where is your man? He left long ago. The middle-aged woman laughed bitterly. Right after the child was born, that man ran away with a huge debt. Every day, I sell pancakes to pay off my debt, and I still have to pay for my son's school fees. Yi Hua answered, then took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Very quickly, the two of them arrived at the entrance of a small district, and the district was rather high class. The security guard opened the door, seemingly not understanding the middle-aged woman who was selling pancakes. The houses here all start from $1 million, and yet, this middle-aged woman went to sell pancakes so early in the morning. The middle-aged woman came to the garage downstairs and opened the door. A Porsche 911 could be seen inside the garage. The middle-aged woman placed her tools at the side and said with a smile, that rascal is at home. Just nice. Yi Hua said indifferently. The middle-aged woman's house was on the top floor, and the view was very good. Of course, the house price was not cheap either. The middle-aged woman who was standing in the elevator said faintly, I don't even know how my son got so much money, and I am afraid that he will act recklessly. You don't have to worry too much about him, a man's ambition is to travel far and wide. Yi Hua said indifferently. From my point of view, if a man were to be an obedient child, then what future would he have? He should be fighting on the battlefield and establishing his career. The middle-aged woman laughed lightly, could it be that you youngsters all think like this? In this current world, it is a good opportunity for a man to establish his career. Yi Hua said indifferently. Actually, middle-aged woman also understands, I just hope that my son can treat me as his mother. The middle-aged woman let out a deep sigh. Yi Hua was able to understand. If one's own child were to look down on one's own mother, one would be able to do something like a tiger eating its own child. What is the use of keeping such a person? Looking at what happened this morning, if I don't discipline them strictly, in the future, they would be even more insatiable, and by then, they would not even put me, the father, in their eyes. Chapter 594. Walking out of the elevator, the middle-aged woman took out her keys and opened the door. They saw a handsome young man making a phone call inside. When he saw the two people at the door, he frowned and walked to the balcony, as if he would be disturbed. Yi Hua felt that this young man was truly formidable, to actually dare to show me such an expression. Even though my mother has returned, she still has a look of impatience on her face. You don't have to change your shoes. The middle-aged woman squeezed out a smile, feeling helpless. Yi Hua did not stand on ceremony and directly walked into the house with the auntie. Yi Hua took a look around the house. The decorations are not bad. Then, Yihua carefully sized up the young man on the balcony. Interesting, he is actually a dual-element mage. No wonder he is a manager in the Peace Association. The auntie poured a cup of tea for Yihua, and Yihua took over the cup of tea. Yihua assumed the posture of a big boss and sat down, while the auntie sat upright on the sofa. The auntie's attitude made Yihua feel that this isn't like a mother at all, this is more like a nanny. What is your son's name? Yihua asked faintly. Wooly, powerless. That was an interesting name. After Wooly finished the call outside, he walked into the house and shouted, I've told you many times to stop setting up the stall. Why won't you listen? You're embarrassing me. As a member of the Peace Association, he was very particular about his reputation. If others knew that his mother was setting up a stall on the street in the morning, he would lose all his face. Yihua could be said to have experienced it for himself. If this was my son, I would have given him a slap right now. This kid is simply a scoundrel. He actually thought that his mother was embarrassing him. What an ingrate. There was even a moon and a star imprinted on his chest. No wonder it was so inflated. Mom, I'm used to having lunch at home. Mom will cook for you. The aunt's eyes were full of desire, hoping that her son would stay for dinner. Wooly had an impatient look on his face as he said in a low voice, I'm not eating. And who is this? Why did you bring it home? Wooly sized up Yihua for a bit. Yihua only looks good, there is no mark on his chest at all, he is just a rookie. The auntie didn't know how to introduce Yihua. Yihua said indifferently, who I am is not important, what is important is that your attitude is making me very unhappy. Wooly laughed and said disdainfully, who are you? Do you know who you're talking to? See that? Moon class elites had 1 star. Watch your attitude. I didn't expect that there would be someone who dared to act cool in front of me, and I, the Supreme Overlord, didn't intend to kill him. After all, I came here today to help Auntie, not to kill her son. I feel like I, the Supreme Overlord, am here to suffer. But this was the only time. It could be considered as repaying this auntie. After all, she had eaten so many pancakes for so many years. It seemed that she still owed money and didn't even remember it. It could be considered as repaying her debt. Moon class elites are indeed powerful. Yihua said faintly. Hee, there's something you haven't seen before. I really don't know where you get the courage to teach me a lesson. Wooly snorted. What an arrogant man. It must have been his mother who called him over. What was this old man thinking? He actually called an outsider to teach his son a lesson. He must be crazy. Yihua became curious, is there anything that I have not seen before? Hee, how could you frogs at the bottom of a well have seen it before? Why don't I broaden your horizons today? Wooly wanted to teach this man a lesson, but it seemed inappropriate to do it in front of his mother, so he chose to do it outside. Yihua stood up and said in a low voice, all right, I would like to broaden my horizons. All right. Just you wait. After finished speaking, Wooly walked into the room and took out a few sets of clothes. Seeing her son's actions, the auntie sat down on the sofa powerlessly. There was no way for her to make her son stay. Yihua patted onto the auntie's shoulder, don't worry, I guarantee that your son will come back tonight. Thank you so much. But you also have to pay attention to your safety. The auntie's gratitude was filled with concern. That son of mine has changed, it is possible for him to do something out of line. Yihua nodded his head and walked out of the house. Coming downstairs, Wooly opened the garage door, Porsche 911, I reckon that you have never seen it before. Get on the car. Yihua didn't say anything and sat on the front passenger seat. Meanwhile, Wooly started the sports car and drove out of the neighborhood. Yihua, who was on the front passenger seat, took out a cigarette and lit it up. Don't dirty my car. Wooly shouted coldly. Yihua spat out a mouthful of smoke and said eerily, if you weren't the auntie's son, you would have been dead by now. Hee, kill for me to see. Do you really think that no one would be able to see through your identity of having dual attributes? Yihua flicked away the cigarette ash and said. Zizizi, the friction between the tires and the ground let out an ear-piercing sound. Luckily, they weren't in the city, if not, they would definitely be rear-ended. Who are you? How did you know my secret? Wooly turned his head and looked towards Yihua and questioned. He even had the intention to kill Yihua. Actually, I am just a person who often buys biscuits from your mother. I decided to lend her a hand. Yihua said lightly. What do you want to help her for? To teach you, this unfilial son, how to be a proper person. This sentence of Yihua's had quite a profound meaning. I haven't even learned how to be a proper person yet, and I am already starting to teach others. After hearing that, Wooly laughed out wildly, as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. Do you know what era it is now? This is an era where people take action. Do you think that you can just talk about it? Who told you that I am going to talk about it? Yihua looked towards Wooly. When the latter met with Yihua's gaze, his eyes immediately shrunk. What kind of gaze is this? This is too scary. Just what kind of person is this? Not being able to figure out Yihua's strength, Wooly planned to go to the company first. There are a lot of people there, and this man will not act recklessly. 30 minutes later, Yihua arrived at the Peace Association's company. After getting off the car, Yihua pinched his head. This sports car is not comfortable at all. The Audi A8 at home is much better. Let's go, I will bring you to experience it. Wu Li's tone changed a bit. Perhaps, he was afraid of Yihua. The two of them walked up the stairs, and Yihua discovered that there were a lot of people here. Most of the people here were stars, and there were very few moons that could be seen. Seems like all of them are newbies. My decision is still correct. If there are no newbies, how am I going to play in the future? After all, it would be a few years before he left. Some of the martial artists of the stars bowed to Wooly, which made Wooly very happy. See? This is the treatment of a moon-class elite, Wooly said proudly. Do you believe that I will slap you out of here? Yihua said eerily. Does Yihua really think that he is very formidable? That's because you haven't seen anything stronger. For some reason, Wooly felt a little afraid of this man from the moment they first met. What was going on? This was Yihua's first time coming to the Peace Association, and he was also preparing to size up the internal situation of the enemy. Chapter 595. Wooly brought Yihua to the second floor, and a 5-star martial artist could be seen shouting out a declaration. Defeat Voidless Realm. Defeat Voidless Realm. Defeat Voidless Realm. Hearing such a declaration, Yihua went into a daze for a moment. What does this Peace Association mean? Are they going to attack Voidless Realm? Are you puzzled? Wooly chuckled. Yihua asked faintly, why does your Peace Association want to defeat Voidless Realm? Because Voidless Realm killed over 1,000 people last night, so we want to suppress them. Wooly said confidently, completely oblivious to the fact that Wooly was about to leave and never return. Oh. Do you know about Voidless Realm? Yihua might not want to care about other people, but this auntie's son, if he can save him, then he will lose his life sooner or later. However, how did they know about what happened last night? Voidless Realm, wasn't it the boss of the North in the past? But now, the times have changed, those who are unable to keep up with the times will eventually be eliminated. Wooly said lightly, and after finished speaking, he even tidied up his hair. Yihua sighed a bit. The ones who are unable to keep up with the times are you all. I gave you all a choice, but in the end, you all still have to step on a path of no return. Hope and despair, you all chose despair without any hesitation, making me feel bitter and hateful. Can't I just enjoy life? Wooly, if it was someone else, I wouldn't persuade them, but you are that auntie's son, so I will give you a word of advice, don't get involved, otherwise, your mother will die alone. Who are you trying to scare? That Voidless Realm is not even worth mentioning. Wu Li snorted coldly. The people above said that Voidless Realm is just a paper tiger, and there is no need to be afraid of them. Yi Hua wouldn't persuade the auntie a second time. Whether or not the auntie can comprehend the auntie's words would depend on himself. The two walked into a spacious classroom, and Wu Li said in a low voice, "Let me bring you to meet a strong individual. This is Xian Ba, the most outstanding youngster in our peace association, and he even became the champion of the North-South martial arts competition last year." A competition of strength. Yi Hua looked towards Xian Ba, who was on the stage. How could I not recognize him? That youngster is that youngster, and I even think highly of him. Yi Hua is also nurturing Xian Ba to be his future opponent. However, compared to the past, the current Xian Ba is doing quite well. Not bad. He didn't disappoint me. Wasn't there a young man named Qi Shuwen? I wonder how you are doing right now. Don't disappoint me. How is it? Do you understand? Wu Li, who was at the side, chuckled. Even he didn't understand, so how could a rookie like him understand? Xian Ba, who was standing on the podium and teaching, seemed to be in his element. He had a gentle smile on his face, which made everyone feel that he was very amiable. On Xian Ba's chest, there were 2 moons and 2 stars. Among young people, this was already very impressive. Xian Ba glanced at the crowd and continued his lecture. But Xian Ba frowned. He seemed to have seen a familiar figure when he scanned the area. Xian Ba looked towards the door again, and his gaze suddenly changed. That figure was simply too familiar. Back then, during the North-South martial arts tournament, that man had sat on the high platform, his aura so overwhelming that it was as if he controlled the lives of all the people in the world. Even the Empress was only a foil, and there was also that god. Why would he appear here? What was he doing here? Right now, Xian Ba was completely not in the mood to teach anymore, and the people who were sitting on the podium were also puzzled. Yi Hua naturally knew why Xian Ba was like this, and he didn't mind, because this was a normal reaction. How is it, you have broadened your horizons, right? Wu Li said proudly. Yi Hua said lightly, what do you think of your own mother? What does that have to do with you? Wu Li was immediately in a bad mood. You are not my father. Yi Hua looked at Wu Li. This, Doom's eyes, scared Wu Li quite a bit, to the point that he felt as if his heart was going to stop beating. Immediately, Wu Li lowered his head and remained silent. I have been eating at your mother's stall for close to 6 years, no matter how heavy the rain is, your mother would still come out to set up her stall. You should know better than me who she is doing this for. Brat, you should be glad that you have a mother like this. Speaking up to here, Yi Hua paused for a bit. Just who are my parents? What kind of parents can a skeleton possibly have? Yi Hua felt that he was thinking too much. However, Yi Hua didn't think too much about it. What did a skeleton turn into? Could it be that it isn't a human? Hearing Yi Hua's words, Wu Li lowered his head and didn't dare to refute. This man's gaze is too ferocious, too terrifying. As for the reasoning behind Yi Hua's words, Wu Li didn't listen to it. Because he was frightened, he didn't hear what Yi Hua said at all. Xian Ba, who was on the podium, didn't have the mood to teach anymore and ended the class early. Wu Li seemed to be planning to curry favor with Xian Ba, and thus, he stood outside and waited for Xian Ba to come out. However, Xian Ba didn't dare to come out, because the person who was standing outside was Voidless Realm's Empress Man. And in the Peace Association, everyone was currently shouting the slogan of, Defeat Voidless Realm. If this man were to get angry, wouldn't everyone have to die? After thinking for a while, Xian Ba felt that he should go out and take a look. I can't just stand there foolishly, right? Just after walking out of the classroom, Xian Ba saw that man standing at the side and waiting for him. Xian Ba felt that his heart was about to stop. Sensing that Xian Ba wasn't feeling well, Old Feng shouted out, Xian Ba. Calm down, there is nothing to be afraid of. Master, this man, Xian Ba, You can be at ease, master is here. Old Feng shouted out gravely. Hearing what his master said, Xian Ba felt a lot more at ease. His master is a powerful deity, he shouldn't be afraid of me, but I am afraid to death. Department head Xian Ba. Wu Li shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua stood at the side and stared at Xian Ba. Yi Hua could even see that old man's soul. Right now, Old Feng's mind was trembling violently. I feel that this man saw me. How is this possible? How is it possible for him to see me? If he really saw me, that would be bad. This is the first time that Xian Ba saw Yi Hua at such a close distance. I feel that Yi Hua is very ghostly, just like a mystery. Xian Ba, we meet again. Yi Hua said faintly. Xian Ba swallowed his saliva. Not knowing how to address Yi Hua, Xian Ba could only shout out, Lord Yi. Wu Li, who was at the side, was dumbfounded. Department head Xian Ba actually addressed him as Lord Yi. The hell? Just what kind of background does this person have? How did my mother get to know him? Why didn't she tell me earlier that there is such a resource? Tonight, I must definitely go back and ask about it clearly. Xian Ba, come over and have a chat with me. Yi Hua said faintly. Xian Ba didn't dare to refuse and said respectfully, all right. Yi Hua turned his head around and looked towards Wu Li. Tonight, go back and accompany your mother. Remember what I said, whether you live or die is up to you. To be able to make Yi Hua speak out to persuade Wu Li, it was most likely only this Wu Li. And Yi Hua was also giving face to the ant, if not, he wouldn't be bothered to care about Wu Li. Chapter 596. Xian Ba obediently followed behind Yi Hua. This made a lot of people feel strange. Why would Xian Ba reveal such an expression? The two of them walked into the emergency exit at the side, then Yi Hua took out a cigarette and lit it up, while Xian Ba stood at the side while trembling with fear. I don't know why Yi Hua called me over, could it be that Yi Hua is planning to kill me? Actually, I think very highly of you, and I don't wish for you to die so quickly. Yi Hua breathed out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly. Xian Ba gulped, Lord Yi, have you misunderstood something? Xinba, you were able to win the championship of the North-South martial arts competition, which shows that you have worked very hard. If your hard work is lost under the leadership of a group of idiots, then I will be disappointed. You should understand what I mean. Hearing what Voidless Realm said, how could Xian Ba not understand what Voidless Realm meant? Right now, the Peace Association is wantonly exaggerating their hatred towards Voidless Realm, and they are just waiting to be annihilated in one fell swoop. Initially, Yi Hua thought to himself that there were only so many people in Voidless Realm, and on his side, there were over 100,000 people. Thus, there was still hope for them to win against Voidless Realm. However, after hearing Yi Hua's words, Xian Ba started to doubt Yi Hua. Can I really win against Yi Hua? Xian Ba lowered his head and did not dare to boast. In front of Yi Hua, he was just a primary school student. The Peace Association and the Righteous Alliance are just a joke. You should have your own sky. Who knows, I might become your opponent in the future. You? Xian Ba was dumbfounded. Old Feng was also shocked. Could it be that he really saw it? Xinba, quickly agree to it. Let's make a decision in the future. Elder Feng didn't even think too much about it. When Xian Ba became stronger in the future, there would still be a chance for him to fight. Of course, Xian Ba listened to his master, Lord Yi, I understand. You can be considered to be a sensible person. Develop well, I look forward to your growth. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from the spot. Xian Ba felt his legs go soft. This man was too terrifying. Just by standing there, he was scared into a limp shrimp. Xian Ba, hurry up and leave this Peace Association. Don't get involved in any more relationships. Crazy old man hurriedly said. Xian Ba naturally obeyed Yi Hua's words. In actuality, Xianba was thinking the same thing in his heart. If there was still a trace of hope in the past, after seeing Yi Hua, he felt that there was basically no hope left. Master, should we tell the others? Xianba asked out of kindness. It's none of your business. Leave first. Yes. Xianba didn't even want to resign and directly chose to leave. Wu Li, who was outside, directly drove home. He wanted to ask his mother what was going on. Yi Hua's promise was fulfilled, and Wu Li had indeed returned home to accompany his aunt. However, Wu Li still did not give up his current position and chose to despair. After returning to Leisure Bar, Yi Hua saw that Blood Demon was wiping the table. Why does he like to clean up so much? His honor. Seeing that his honor had returned, the Blood Demon hurriedly shouted out. Make a few side dishes. Yes. Yi Hua walked forward and opened the door of Qing Yutong's room. Yi Zizi was still playing her game. Your honor, is it a mission? Yi Zizi tossed Zhu Tian, who was in her embrace, onto the bed. The unconscious Zhu Tian was truly miserable. Yi Zizi had been tossing him around all day. Yi Hua lied on his sister-in-law's bed and said faintly, it should be soon. Wu, thank you, your honor. Yi Zizi pounced into Yi Hua's embrace and acted coquettishly. Yi Zizi had done this before in the past, and it could be considered as a normal interaction. Patting onto Yi Zizi's head, Yi Hua said faintly, do you miss your previous life? It's alright, each has its own benefits. Yi Zizi felt that playing games every day wasn't bad either. Occasionally, I can go out and kill some people to loosen my muscles and bones. When we go back, we have to maintain our current low-profile attitude. Yi Hua laughed lightly. In the past, being high-profile was really boring. Only being low-profile is the way of the king. Why? Aren't we just going to kill all of them? Yi Hua knocked onto Yi Zizi's forehead petulantly. I owe your honor, I am so foolish, it was all because of you knocking onto my forehead. Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth and rubbed onto her forehead. If you dare to spoil my plan, I will smack your butt. Zizi will not spoil your honor's plan. Then, can you tell me about your honor's plan? I promise to keep it a secret. Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi. With your big mouth, I reckon that you will tell Lai Gu in no time. Ha, how is that possible? My mouth is rather small. Your honor, take a look. Yi Zizi opened her mouth wide, and her tongue was moving back and forth. Yi Zizi's mouth is truly stimulating, and with the two ponytails at the back of her head, it really makes one want to commit a crime. Patting onto Yi Zizi's butt, Yi Hua said faintly, accompany me to eat. Alright, Yi Zizi bounced and jumped as she wore her shoes, then carried Zhu Tian, who was currently unconscious, and walked downstairs. Meanwhile, on the other side, the boss of Justice and Order Alliance, Bai Cixin, was currently having lunch with the boss of Peace Association, Zhou Yi. The top-notch steak was flown over today, and the steak was still fresh. Zhou Yi, have you thought it through? Bai Cixin cut off a piece of steak, then slowly stuffed it into her small mouth and chewed. Zhou Yi laughed, Alliance Master Bai, this voidless realm is not a place that we can afford to offend, aren't we being too rash by doing this? Then, what does Zhou Yi want to do? Right now, Bai Cixin was wholeheartedly thinking of bringing down voidless realm. Zhou Yi placed down the knife and fork in his hand and said faintly, Alliance Master Bai should understand this first, right? Lord Zhou means to negotiate first. Bai Cixin's eyebrows wrinkled. Although it is a bit strange, I feel that this idea is pretty good. Lord Zhou nodded his head. Actually, he was still very fearful in his heart. To be more accurate, he was fearful of the owner of the leisure bar. Who knew how formidable he was? Although his side had the advantage in numbers, he was still not at ease. That's right, this voidless realm has killed so many of our people, they have to pay the price, right? What Zhou Yi said is right, a life for a life. No matter how powerful this voidless realm is, they won't be able to withstand the attacks from all of the powers, right? Bai Cixin had an idea in his mind. I'm going to join hands with everyone to get rid of voidless realm. However, there are still a lot of things that I have to do in between. Jiu Yi nodded his head, that is only natural. In the end, the only one who is powerful in voidless realm is the Empress. However, no matter how powerful the Empress is, we still have experts on our side. Bai Cixin cut a small piece of meat again. She did have a lot of masters on her side, especially Atlas, who was still a mystery. Maybe he could even kill the Empress. The Empress died. Then she would be the only Empress in this world. Jiu Yi, I wish us a happy cooperation. Bai Cixin stretched out her pure white hand. With a smile on his face, Jiu Yi held on to Bai Cixin's delicate hand. I feel that my hand feels pretty good, smooth and tender. Chapter 597. After eating lunch with Yi Zizi, Yi Hua returned to Voidless Realm. Right now, Yi Hua felt that he was a bit bored, and it seemed that he should do something to do. Ever since last year's North-South martial arts competition, there hadn't been any big events. It was estimated that Xian Ba and Qi Shuwen would not be able to grow up. Right now, they could only rely on the Righteous Alliance and the Peace Association. Right after arriving at Voidless Realm, Yi Hua heard the sound of a flute. When he arrived at the outer courtyard of the bedchamber, he saw his son holding a flute that was about the same length as him, and he was playing it with great vigor. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji sat at the side and watched, and traces of tenderness could be seen on Donghuang Li's face. Donghuang Li was also sitting on her mother's lap and watching her little brother play the flute. From time to time, they would even clap their hands and cheer. The three of them really knew how to show their support. Look at the smile on their son's face, the more he boasted, the more energetic he became. Yi Yan really liked to play the flute now. Especially after hearing his mother and sister's praise, it was even more incredible. He felt like he was playing a divine tune. But Yi Yan, who lacked musical talent, played it like ghosts wailing and wolves howling. Yi Hua and Qingye didn't seem to have any musical talent, and they didn't even sing together before. Seeing that his father had appeared, Yi Yan stopped. His little face collapsed and he stood upright without moving. Donghuang Li also jumped down from her mother's bosom, then lowered her head and admitted her mistake. Alright, Daddy isn't angry anymore. Yi Hua said faintly. Donghuang Baiji sat on the stone stool at the side and poured a cup of tea for her husband. Hearing that their father wasn't angry anymore, a smile appeared on the two little fellows' faces, and they pounced into Yi Hua's embrace and acted coquettishly. Yi Hua patted his children, go and play. Dad, Yan is learning how to play the flute. It sounds really nice. And, little brother, your boasting is very nice. Big sister Donghuang Li was very nice to Yi Hua. Towards his son's interest in this aspect, Yi Hua didn't stop him, and, not bad. Right now, after obtaining his father's approval, Yi Yan became even more excited. After taking a few steps back, Yi Yan started to play his solo. Alright, although I agree with my son's interest, my son's skill level still needs to be improved. However, looking at the flute in my son's hand, it really is lacking something. Yan, this is for you. Yi Hua instantly took out a black jade flute. This flute's name was Dragon Abyss, and it was a primordial divine artifact that was used for musical attacks. Yi Hua had already forgotten how it came to be, but it was still barely enough for his son to practice with. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were already used to their husband casually taking out terrifying things, therefore, they didn't say anything. Yi Hua would also place a layer of seal on the Dragon Abyss to prevent Yi Yan from destroying it. Yi Yan immediately ran over and took Long Yuan from his father's hands. His big eyes were filled with joy. Thank you, Dad. Yi Hua nodded his head. One must be polite, and this was something that must be learned from young. Ali was brought up well by Baiji, and Ali was very polite. My son is even more so. Even if he were to kill someone, he would have to be polite. It had to be said that the sound produced by the dragon abyss was very moving. If it wasn't for Yi Yan's lack of skill, he would definitely be intoxicated. It could even blow people to death. Baiji, I just heard that the Peace Association wants to make a move on us. Yi Hua drank a mouthful of tea and said faintly. Yi Hua, you already know about it? Dong Huang Baiji was still planning to not tell her husband about it and deal with it herself. Yi Hua nodded his head. Yesterday's matter seemed to have been discovered by someone, and they are using this matter to make a fuss. Just that, what made Yi Hua puzzled was, just who in the world was the one who discovered this? There doesn't seem to be anyone who survived. This is truly very strange. I really hope they don't do anything wrong. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. Why must you go against my voidless realm? Aren't you just courting death? Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Some things are truly unstoppable. Qingye laughed lightly. That's right, some things are indeed unstoppable. Looking at Qingye's expression, Yi Hua felt that something was amiss and asked curiously, what is unstoppable? Dong Huang Baiji smiled. Yi Hua, Qingye is having her second child. Ah! Yi Hua was shocked. I got pregnant again so quickly. Yen, is also going to have a little brother. Yi Yan put down the dragon abyss in his hand and smiled. Dong Huangli was the same as well. I'm going to have 3 little brothers. Haha, Ali is the big sister. It felt like I was the last one to know about it. They all knew about it. Yi Hua suddenly thought of a problem. My 2 wives are pregnant again, and according to their habits, they definitely won't let me touch them. Originally, I already didn't touch Baiji, and there was still Qingye. But now, the 2 of them can forget about it. Why do I have to find things to do recently that are like shooting myself in the foot? Looking at the gloomy expression on their husband's face, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji laughed lightly. Their husband is definitely feeling gloomy right now. However, Yi Hua was still very happy that Qingye was able to get pregnant again. However, I have to take some safety measures in the future, if not, this will be too painful. After giving birth to their second child, they won't be able to give birth for the next 10 years. Yi Hua's dream of having a threesome still hasn't been fulfilled yet. Yi Hua lightly held on to Qingye's hand and Dong Huang Baiji's hand. Yi Hua was very grateful to them for continuing his bloodline. It has been hard on the 2 of you. Yi Hua said earnestly. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji smiled sweetly. Everything was understood without words. The 2 little fellows stood beside their parents, and while looking at their father and mother, a smile appeared on their faces. What a beautiful and warm scene this was. A family of 5, and there were still 2 little fellows in their mother's tummy. Yi Hua changed from a lonely life to his current life. He was simply the biggest winner in life. With a wife that he deeply loved, and an adorable child, there was nothing more in life than this. Did I come at the wrong time? Qing Yutong's voice rang out from the side. Yi Hua turned his head and looked towards his sister-in-law. These 2 wives of mine are no longer able to serve me, so whether or not this sister-in-law should serve me instead is a problem. Your big sister is pregnant. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth arced up into a smile. Qing Yutong went into a daze for a moment, then immediately rushed to the front of her big sister, so fast. With a gentle smile on her face, Qingye nodded her head. Damn, brother-in-law, you really hit the mark every time, you are amazing. Qing Yutong couldn't help but praise. As expected of a supreme overlord, his ability to give birth is also top-notch. Qingye patted onto the back of her little sister's hand. You have to think about yourself too. Big sister, why are you here again? Qing Yutong was helpless. My big sister urges me every day, making it seem as if I can't get married. Yi Hua sat on the chair and did not speak. In this world, there are too few men that are worthy of Qing Yutong. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong turned around and blinked her beautiful eyes mischievously at her brother-in-law, seemingly saying, Brother-in-law, if you are not going to make a move, I am going to get married. Chapter 598. With the addition of Qing Yutong, anger became a lot more active. She is already so old, and yet, she is still able to play with 2 children. This made Qing Yu very helpless. In the future, when my little sister has a child, I reckon that she will still be like this. This is truly making me worry. In the following week, Yi Hua was indeed having a great time. Because his 2 wives seemed to be embarrassed, the 3 of them were currently sleeping together. Yi Hua hugged one on his left and one on his right, and he finally got to enjoy it. Although he didn't do anything bad, he still took a step forward. Would the future be far? But here came the problem. Every morning, before the sun had even risen, she could hear her son practicing the flute. That ghostly wail and wolf-like howl really made her unable to sleep. In the beginning, Yi Hua thought that his son's interest was just too high, and that he would be fine after a few days. However, Yi Hua had underestimated his son's interest. The torture had only just begun. In an instant, everyone in Voidless Realm was in a bad mood. All of them thought that the Little Highness's popularity was only for a short period of time. From the gratified smile in the beginning, to the despair in the end, the change in the middle was truly comical. Just like what Yi Yan said, he could blow people to death with his flute. On this day, Yi Hua, who was in his dreams, was currently hugging onto his 2 fragrant wives as he slept. Suddenly, the sound of his son playing the flute rang out beside his ears. Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji, who were at the side, also instantly opened their eyes. This Qing Ye was truly helpless. My son is so passionate about blowing the flute, and yet, if I go over and tell him to stop blowing the flute, wouldn't that be too much of a blow to my son? Yi Hua let out a deep sigh. Tomorrow, let's go back to Leisure Bar and sleep. I can't take it anymore. During the past few days, there were also people who reported about Yen Er's matter, and the people in Voidless Realm are about to be unable to take it anymore. Donghuang Baiji laughed bitterly. Yen this fellow is too good at stirring up trouble. Just by playing the flute, he is able to cause such a huge ruckus. In order to not dampen his son's interest in learning, Yi Hua said lightly, in the future, let's set a time for Yen to practice. It's not a good thing to continue like this. Qing Ye felt that what Yi Hua said was true as well. The strange flute sound continued ringing in their ears, and the 3 parents were already on the verge of despair, let alone the other people from Voidless Realm, who were currently living in an abyss of suffering. Not long after, the 3 of them got up. Then, they found Yi Yan, who was practicing, and told the little guy to practice at the set time and not start early in the morning. After hearing this, Yi Yan felt that it was okay and compromised. It seemed like he had boasted too much, so he had placed it when everyone was awake. However, during lunchtime, a guard suddenly rushed in to report something. Your Majesty, I've just received news that the Justice and Order Alliance and the Peace Association are requesting to negotiate. Yi Hua put down the chopsticks in his hand. Negotiate? That's right, it's going to be held the day after tomorrow. In fact, they even said that if Voidless Realm doesn't come, they will attack Voidless Realm together with Voidless Realm. Yi Hua laughed lightly. This is a bit interesting. Donghuang Baiji waved her hand, and the guard bowed his body and left. Yi Hua picked up his chopsticks and picked up some food, then said faintly, leave this matter to me. Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji didn't say anything either. Yi Yan stood on the stool and said in a childish voice, Daddy, Yen can also help you do things. When Yen grows up, there will be a lot of things waiting for Yen to do. Yi Hua said lightly. As the son of the original Supreme Overlord, there would only be a lot of things waiting for Yen in the future. Li is also able to help father. Donghuang Li naturally wanted to help her father share his burdens. Yi Hua said indifferently, right now, your mission is to properly grow up. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan nodded their heads. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan really hope that they can grow up quickly so that they can help their father. After dinner, Yi Hua returned to Leisure Bar and looked for Yi Zizi. Didn't she want a quest? In that case, Yi Zizi would be in charge of the negotiation. Yi Zizi was very happy. Finally, I am able to do something. Furthermore, His Honor also said that I can talk to them however I want. The prerequisite is to anger them, but of course, I can't kill all of them. Yi Zizi, of course, understood that it was finally her turn to appear. She was really excited. 3 days later, Haigang City, hehe, 3 days passed quickly. The international building in Seaport City was the territory of the Righteous Alliance. The negotiation conference this time would also be held here. Among them were 2 big shots, Lord Jiu and Bai Cixin. Only Feng Di appeared in the Righteous Alliance. Of course, Wang Debao was there as well. Since his wife had come to negotiate, he had to cheer her on as her husband. The entire hall was filled with the upper echelons of both sides. They all had a combination of 2 moons and stars on their chests. They were all powerhouses. And right now, they were currently waiting for Voidless Realm's representative, and all of them were making guesses in low voices. Who do you guys think Voidless Realm will send this time? The Empress might come. The Empress? I haven't even seen the Empress's appearance yet. With the Empress's appearance, after you see her appearance once, you will feel that other women will not be able to enter your eyes at all. Is it that exaggerated? Whoever sees her will know. Right now, Bai Cixin and Lord Jiu were sitting at the top of the round table. This kind of situation was just like when the gangsters were having a meeting, the underlings were all standing at the entrance, and the big brothers were just sitting there. Lord Jiu, will Voidless Realm? Right now, Bai Cixin was also uncertain. If the Empress is really going to come, what should I do? However, upon thinking that this is my territory, Bai Cixin felt a lot more at ease. After all, there are still Qing Tiandi and Feng Tian behind me. Lord Jiu smoked his cigar and squinted his eyes. He was also feeling uncertain in his heart, but he still said, Alliance Master Bai, be at ease, it doesn't matter even if the Empress doesn't come. It will only increase the negative influence of the Empress, which is beneficial to us. Bai Cixin's face became gloomy. This Voidless Realm is truly hard to deal with. When will I be able to take my revenge? Just as everyone was discussing in low voices. Ding! The elevator door opened, and everyone's gaze looked towards the entrance of the elevator. Voidless Realm's people are here. As the elevator door opened, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A short and small figure could be seen inside the elevator. However, this was not the main point. 2 moon-class experts could be seen floating in the air beside the short figure. The 2 people didn't die, rather, they were struggling with all their might, and their legs were powerlessly kicking against the ground. Everyone discovered that the 2 people seemed to be the guards below. Yi Zizi appeared in splendid attire today. She was wearing a pink princess dress and a pink big round hat, looking very stylish. Coupled with that cute ponytail of hers, she simply looked like a lovable little loli. Of course, that was during normal times. Right now, she wasn't cute at all. Even if the little loli were to smile, that smile was the smile of death. Yi Zizi's high-heeled shoes made clanking sounds as she blinked her scarlet eyes and sized up the people below. Chapter 599. Suddenly, Wang Debao seemed to have thought of something. The girl inside the coffin. Didn't they dig out a coffin last year when they were fighting over an ancient godly item? The coffin looks exactly the same. Those who witnessed Yi Zizi's appearance back then were all dead, and only this Wang Debao was still alive. Therefore, Wang Debao was confused. However, Wang Debao didn't dare to be sure. Perhaps, the girl only looks similar. However, looking at the current situation, it was clear that the girl came with ill intentions. A moon-class expert from the Justice and Order Alliance stood out and shouted, "Who are you? Hurry up and release them." Yi Zizi didn't say anything, and a strand of her hair quietly slipped out. Under everyone's surprised voice, the strand of hair pierced through the man's head and directly hung him up. Yizizi lightly yawned, then said, "A lowly ant dares to look me straight in the eye." The 3 people who were hung up in the air were directly sucked dry, and their corpses were thrown to the side by Yizizi. Yizizi no longer cared about this kind of miscellaneous food. Gods were still the easiest to suck. A little girl came to this kind of situation and killed 3 people just because she didn't agree with them. How arrogant is she? Alright, these were just thoughts. Right now, no one dared to say anything, because the scene was too shocking. They couldn't even look at her. If they looked at her, they would die. Bai Cixin and Jiu Yi were also shocked. Just who is this? Didn't you want to negotiate? Where is she? Yizizi didn't even walk over and shouted out. She came to negotiate. This little girl came to negotiate. If that's the case, this little girl is from Voidless Realm. As expected, this Voidless Realm isn't a good thing. An organization that randomly kills people, this kind of organization should be eliminated. Everyone was just thinking about it, but no one stood out. Because everyone was afraid of death. A Moon-class expert died without even being able to resist. How terrifying. Yizizi took out a lollipop and put it in her mouth. Are we not going to negotiate anymore? Feng Di snorted coldly. What a silly little girl, is there no one else in Voidless Realm? Yizizi looked at Feng Di, and an evil smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Little big brother has an opinion of me? Humph. Pretending to be mysterious. Feng Di twisted his fist and said with a strong murderous aura. Yizizi suddenly opened a pink flower umbrella and said with a smile, "Little brother, come here." As the leader of the Righteous Alliance, how could Feng Di endure such mockery? He immediately threw a punch towards Yizizi with the roar of a tiger. Yizizi's clothes fluttered in the wind, showing how violent this punch was. The people standing at the side exclaimed. What a powerful punch! Indeed, this is the most awesome punch I've ever seen. I reckon that this punch will turn everything into dust. Everyone spoke one after another, as if Yizizi was about to die under this punch. Yizizi shrugged her shoulders. Why would they think that way? She was really unhappy. Against such a person, Yizizi did not need to use her full strength at all. In fact, she did not even need to use a tiny bit of her strength. A single strand of hair was enough to settle it. Boom! Feng Di's punch seemed to have landed on thin air, leaving everyone speechless. However, only Feng Di knew what his punch had landed on. Feng Di's gaze focused, and a strand of hair entered his eyes. She actually used a strand of hair to block my punch. How is this possible? Little brother is not much, I am very disappointed. Yizizi slowly spat out. Her hair was like a sharp bayonet that pierced through Feng Di's head at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. From the perspective of others, Feng Di was just standing there without moving, and Yizizi was the same as well. Feng Di only felt a chill in the center of his brows, and his head started hurting. After that, his ears started ringing. Blood flowed down from Feng Di's forehead, and this caused everyone to reveal an expression of panic. Nothing happened just now. Why did Feng Di's forehead start bleeding? Could it be this little girl? But that's not possible, I didn't even see her make a move. Feng Di looked at the little girl in front of him blankly, and his vision became completely red. Feng Di's consciousness also became blurry, and he directly fell backwards. Yizizi licked her lollipop and said with a smile, who else? Everyone shifted their gaze away. Feng Di is a powerful being with 3 moons, and he died just like that. Are we really Voidless Realm's opponent? This question appeared in everyone's heart. This little girl's performance is too overpowered. It's impossible for us to resist at all. Who is going to negotiate with us? If you don't speak, I'm going to slap you. Yizizi felt that the mission that his honor gave her was too easy, and there was no technique involved at all. If I had known that this mission would be so boring, I wouldn't have come. I might as well just stay at home and play games. In the future, it's best that I don't take on missions like this anymore, and I can't kill too many people. Sigh. In actuality, Yizizi's change wasn't that big. She was still as bloodthirsty as before, and the only thing that changed was that her mind had matured slightly. She wasn't as reckless as before, and she knew how to think. Feng Di's death caused Bai Cixin and Wang Debao to be dumbstruck. Feng Di is Feng Tian's blood-related younger brother. However, what can we do now? There's simply nothing we can do. Jiu Yi and Bai Cixin let out a breath of relief, then slowly stood up. This voidless realm's people really don't act according to common sense. They killed someone right away, and we can only walk over to negotiate with them. But what else can we do? This is a world where the strong are respected, and what the strong say goes. The weak don't have the qualifications to speak. When Yizizi saw the two of them walking over, she naturally didn't plan to kill them, because the two of them were important people. Speak, what do you want to talk about? Yizizi's pair of scarlet eyes caused Jiu Yi and Bai Cixin to be afraid. In this sort of situation, negotiating with them is just like a joke. Voidless realm. Before Bai Cixin could finish speaking, Yizizi already decided to speak. Is it your turn to care about what Voidless Realm does? Do you really think that the world has changed? Yizizi said with a light smile. Yizizi's sweet voice made everyone feel very comfortable, and they even felt like falling asleep. Everyone thought to themselves, is this little girl so domineering? Bai Cixin mustered up her courage and said, even the emperor who commits a crime will be punished with the same punishment, let alone Voidless Realm. Yizizi sneered, Voidless Realm is the law. Everyone took in a breath of cold air. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Jiu Yi remained silent as he pondered in his heart. I'll just let Bai Cixin who is beside me speak. Could it be that your Voidless Realm is going to let us off just like that? Bai Cixin still has a bit of courage. Under this situation where there is such a huge disparity in strength, she is still able to say such a thing. Then, what do you want to do? Yizizi asked curiously. Voidless Realm has to give a corresponding punishment, if not, you will have to bear the consequences. Bai Cixin shouted out. Wang Debao who was at the side was prepared to come out and protect his wife at any moment, and his back was already drenched with cold sweat. Chapter 600. Yizizi grinned. Ignorant humans, you are not the first to say such a thing, the last person who said such a thing is already dead, do you want to repeat the same mistake? In this world, there will always be some people who want to test the bottom line, and when they truly test the bottom line, they will know how terrifying the despair within is. Unless they are the kind of people who eat despair for breakfast. This is no longer the matter of the North, it is the matter of the entire North and South. Does Voidless Realm dare to kill so many people? Aren't they afraid of the wrath of the heavens? Bai Cixin was also angered. The matter of being chased out of the North by Voidless Realm was still on her mind, and if she doesn't understand it, she won't be able to feel at ease for the rest of her life. Wrath of the heavens? Actually, I am Wrath of the Heavens. Yizizi said faintly, and the scarlet in her eyes became even more intense. I really want to kill this self-righteous woman in front of me. Where did she get the courage to say such a thing? Is it Liang Jingru? Bai Cixin was angered to the point that she was a bit speechless. This is simply the most absurd negotiation, it is more like Voidless Realm's declaration of war. Jiu Yi remained silent, giving off a look of, I don't casually provoke others. The negotiation ends here, Voidless Realm welcomes you all. Yizizi laughed. I am really looking forward to that day. I wonder if his honor will wipe out everyone like what happened in Heaven's Mansion. If that is really the case, it might be a little interesting. Everyone didn't dare to say anything. They didn't expect that just one person from Voidless Realm would be able to suppress everyone, and furthermore, kill people without reason. Under that cute appearance, he was extremely savage. Just as Yizizi was preparing to go out and eat something good, a figure suddenly appeared. The person who came was precisely Feng Tian. Looking at his little brother who was lying on the ice-cold floor, Feng Tian walked over expressionlessly, and with a cold look in his eyes, he said, "Who did this?" Yi Zizi slowly turned around and said with a smile, "Me." Feng Tian looked towards Yi Zizi, and the eyes under the mask were actually spinning. A wave of killing intent immediately spread out, causing everyone to take 3 steps back. "Do you want to fight with me as well?" Yi Zizi asked curiously as she blinked her beautiful eyes. How could Feng Tian possibly hold back? His killing intent immediately rose. "I want you to die." "Alright, let's go somewhere else to play." Yi Zizi was delighted. "I finally met someone who can fight, this feeling isn't bad." After saying that, Yi Zizi disappeared. Feng Tian disappeared as well. The hearts of everyone present were filled with anticipation. "Let's kill this little girl. She's too terrifying." Thousands of kilometers away, Yi Zizi appeared. Soon, Feng Tian also appeared. "Wow, the air here is really good." Yi Zizi raised her head and closed her beautiful eyes as she took a deep breath. It was really comfortable. Feng Tian's hands were trembling and a majestic spiritual pressure was released uncontrollably. Feng Tian's right hand slowly gripped his mask. Pa! Feng Tian took off his mask because he wanted to kill the person in front of him in the cruelest way possible. The moment Feng Tian took off his mask, the sky changed color. Dark clouds covered the sky and thunder rumbled. The terrifying spiritual energy swept across the sky and turned into a strange scene. The spiritual energy was so strong that it seemed like it was going to tear the air apart. The moment Feng Tian took off his mask, he lowered his head as though he was lifeless. Yi Zizi held onto her pink umbrella and mumbled, "He's quite powerful." All of a sudden, white gloves appeared on Feng Tian's hands, and the spiritual pressure surged once again. The grass seemed to be unable to withstand such power and started splitting apart. Feng Tian suddenly disappeared while laughing maniacally. Yi Zizi wrinkled her brows and leaned her head to the right. A fist appeared on the left side of Yi Zizi's face. Yi Zizi was startled for a moment, then she lightly leaped up. This person's speed and strength are not bad, much stronger than those deities. Yi Zizi, who had leaped up high, lowered her head and saw that there was no one there. All of a sudden, she felt a violent power coming from above her head. Yi Zizi felt that it was time for her to loosen up. Back then, she fought with his honor, and I felt really good. It has already been more than half a year, and I still haven't gotten the chance to fight. It wasn't easy for me to meet someone that I can fight with, so I have to have a good fight with him. Yi Zizi clenched her small fist and punched toward the direction above her head. Boom! The collision between the two fists caused the entire sky to tremble. A huge shockwave spread out, and even a dazzling light exploded out from the collision. Ha! Not bad, you are actually able to block a punch from me. Feng Tian's face was extremely distorted, and he looked just like a lunatic. Yi Zizi smiled and said, "You are not bad yourself. Let me see how many punches you can take from me then." Feng Tian shouted out violently, and the spiritual energy around his body became a bit denser. There wasn't any technique involved in his punches, and he simply punched and retracted his fists. At this level, everything else was no longer that important. A single punch from him was enough to destroy the world. Yi Zizi held onto the umbrella with her left hand and fought against Feng Tian with her right hand. Every single punch landed on Feng Tian's body, and it was extremely terrifying. Every time their punches collided, a powerful spiritual energy fluctuation would be produced, and a crack in space would slowly form. Feng Tian's punches could be seen becoming faster and faster, and the strength of his punches also became more and more ferocious. Yi Zizi adjusted the strength of her punches according to Feng Tian's strength so that she wouldn't be able to smash Feng Tian into pieces with a single punch. This punch isn't bad, it's very crafty. If your punches were a bit faster, your punches would be able to graze the corner of my clothes. Although Yizizi was punching Feng Tian, she was also lecturing Feng Tian non-stop. What was the combination of strength and speed? That was perfect. Feng Tian couldn't do it here, there, or anywhere else. She made Feng Tian sound like he was useless. From the start, Feng Tian went berserk, and the more he fought, the darker his expression became. When experts fought, they would hold back and wouldn't go all out. But now, Feng Tian was slowly releasing his strength, but Lin Fan was like a bottomless pit. No matter how he adjusted, Lin Fan was able to receive his punches. Such a situation caused Feng Tian to be speechless. His maniacal and vicious face sank, and it was as if he was beaten to the point of being autistic. Yizizi put away the small umbrella and chuckled, "All right, I'll fight you seriously." "What? Weren't you serious enough just now?" Feng Tian didn't dare to be careless, and he stared at Yizizi. In less than a breath, Feng Tian saw the small fist in front of him getting bigger and bigger. Feng Tian hurriedly blocked it, and he was forced back dozens of meters. Yizizi waved her fist, "You have to hold on. I am coming." After saying that, Yizizi disappeared from the spot. Feng Tian didn't dare to be careless, and he exploded with all his strength. From time to time, waves of energy would explode out from the grassland, and the torn space would get bigger and bigger. A terrifying aura was emitted from within, as if there was a strong creature that was about to make a move. As long as the torn space got bigger, the terrifying existence inside would appear and destroy the world. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.